is the geodesic work now. Okay.
You see that Kentucky Derby race?
Right.
That Kentucky Derby race. He was 30 seconds before they put him in because he was coach. And I think, is he like a $30,000 horse? He was only $30,000 and all the others were oh, he was. Had to be the jockey. Well, and that was his first. That was his first Kentucky Derby. It was? Yeah, the jockeys and the train.
Okay.
I think we're going, not the aerial view, but they go back.
Oh, and you can edit.
Name them all. He's looking like
That's great.
to his side.
It's a little easier for sharing.
Because at one time, he had, his head was cocked before he, because it wasn't a very big opening, where he went in between the two. He was, they said that he was in worst starting position because he was the last, I mean, he was laying there because he was scratched. I mean, he was. I just wonder if he knew that horse had more to give, or if that horse just, I don't know, it was. That was something. Yeah, it almost made me cry.
Okay. Let's all rise and say the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, please be with this gathering. Please be with us and help us to listen to your guiding and to make wise decisions. Help us to weigh all the facts and do what's best for the county and the citizens of this county. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, is everyone signed in? Got everyone here but Chuck and Nick. Okay, let's look over our minutes.
Was Chuck the last one?
Yes.
Mike Robinson, it has Ely twice. I don't know if that makes any difference.
Yeah, Chuck was here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he made a motion.
Yeah, so there's two Andy Woods for members present. And there's no, and there's no,
No, Chuck.
Chuck Hess was not.
Yeah, he was here and
So with those edits, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the minutes dated April 11th, 2022.
No, second that.
motion made by Andy, seconded by Anton. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have our financial review.
Okay, good evening, council, everyone. Tonight, a couple things, starting off at the beginning for the all funds. So looking at the fund ledger from April, first thing I'd like to kind of point out is on January 1st of 2022, the total balance of all the funds were roughly $10,400,000, leaving out the cents and a few dollars. On April 30th of 2022, the ending balance was $10,400,000. So you have a very good, consistent amount in the funds. Now that's reflected as you look at the amount spent on the appropriated budgets. As we looked at that first quarter, they were all within the 25%, but we're maintaining, instead of having a wide fluctuation in total funds, very, very consistent. In April of 2022, the total amount of funds that came in were roughly about $3 million. The amount spent was about 2.8. So there was a difference of a positive balance in April overall of $331,000. So again, it's a very good financial way where we actually had more money coming in as a county than was expended out. All of your accounts are in a positive balance. All the funds, all your major operating funds were there, all the highway funds were in. There are a few of the reimbursable grants, but that's always going to be with it. With the general fund also, the amount that came in and the amount was spent, we spent less money in April of 2022 than went out of about $45,000. So a very good fiscal month of April. For the general fund totals, we ended the general fund in April 30th was at $828,494,000. There's been a consistent positive balance in the general fund from December all the way to April 30th. Now we're at May 9th. There's already been one payroll and there's already been one claims. So the general fund going into this morning was roughly $700,000. However, a couple things that is not included. There's a lit distribution of $211,000 that has not been credited in. We expect that to be credited in this week. That's going to put the general fund at roughly $900,000. Again, there's still another claim and another payroll. The other thing is, this is the 9th, I believe, May 10th, very significant day is the final day for the payment of property tax. The Treasurer's Office, this is their time of the year, and they're absolutely on track proceeding with the settlement roughly on May 19th. That's going to put Owen County probably one of the first ones in the state, if not the first one, to reconcile and then have that settlement. It takes a few days after the settlement is done on the 19th, processes for the auditor to go to the state. But very reasonably, we would expect to get the settlement portion in May of 2022. Not going to suggest a number yet, too early, but the general fund clearly by the end of this month is going to be in excess of $1 million. So with that, those all look all very positive. The other thing, as far as on Riverboat, so far there's been some expenditures out of lit edit, but those were the normal appropriations. But the county council, you've not had to dip in to either Riverboat or lit edit so far this year on anything unappropriated. That balance has moved up to roughly about $825,000. So obviously 800,000, 700,000, about $1.5 million is right now as far as ready cash balance. These are good. Always wanting to go better, but comparatively, if we were talking in the year of 2021 or 2020 or 2019, these were not the numbers. So I think all of those look very positive distribution. So with the ARP money that has already come in, there was money that was distributed as premium paid. The commissioners have approved the following projects for the highway. There are 3 bridges, Rocky Hill Bridge 16, Franklin Bridge 116, Wasatch Lake Road is Bridge 44, and it was approved, the bid has not went out, but there's approved for the resurface of Hardscrabble Road. There's a hard cap. The proposal was made, and the council, you've appropriated roughly $1.6 million. It does go up to the cents, but that's a hard cap. If any of those projects would exceed that amount and they're still going to be approved, then that money most likely would have to come out of the highway fund of 1173. But those are all in process of either have been started, which is Bridge 16 is already under construction. 116 and 44, those bids will come to the commissioners this coming Monday, a week from today. And the Hardscrabble Road is set out to be released and put out for bid on May 11th. So these 4 projects most likely will be completed, within the summer of 2022. With that, on the hard cap, so the next area, council, just really for more for your consideration. I think there's been a preliminary notice, if I'm correct, from the auditor that the additional $2 million is coming in to the ARP. That probably will be received sometime in May, if not early June. That is currently in the bucket of what's called, lost revenue, which would allow then for a number of things. So one option that I'd like for the council to consider, and probably more of a formal proposal come to this next meeting, would be this. The $2 million would go in and be deposited. And first of all, for everyone who's not familiar with the ARP, that money has to be spent. If the Owen County chooses not to spend it, it just goes back to the Department of Treasury. So one of the options that would be available, there's still 2 funds that significantly that are in the red. We've talked about these numerous times, but so it's a 5,100 payroll benefits and 9051. What could be done with the general fund of the first $1 million? There's $2 million coming in, so I'm just talking about the first $1 million. If the first $1 million was used as recovered revenue, and say for example, out of 1176, from say July 1st on to December 31st. If that money then was appropriated and the highway payroll was paid directly out of the ARP, you would want then to raise 1176 to that 448,000. Do not spend it, do not spend it, do not spend it. I'm trying to be rude, but I want to make sure everybody's clear. That 448 then could be used, and that will wipe out 9051. Your books are clear on it. The same thing could be done on 5100. That's about 526 in that rate. It's 523, 526. You take that same money, you pay the 10,000 personal services out of the general fund, July 1st all the way to December 31st. Once you reach that $500,000, do not appropriate that for anything else and say, hey, we got a good project. I'm sure it would be. Then you could take that, wipe that out. There's your $1 million. Your books now by December 31st will be in order. You're always going to have some reimbursable fund, but now we're talking about maybe $1,000 or $2,000. That's not a problem. And that's realized. Why that would be, you would have it in Owen County by December 31st. You could then have, in essence, all accounts squared, which will be important in the jail project. We'll talk just in a moment. The other $1 million, purely an option. But one of the other options that you could have with that is be a matter of execution of taking that $1 million, using that also as recovered revenue. Generate another $1 million worth of expenses out of your general fund, just paid directly out of ARP. Now, what would that give you? So let's say our base, just using very simple math for myself. Let's say there's $1 million in the general fund right now. I'm going to call that the principal. You have $200,000 roughly. It's 211 to be much more accurate, coming in each month. Keep your base at the $1 million. Don't touch that. Your 200,000 keeps coming in. It keeps raising your base. You're then paying out of the ARP. So by December 31st, if the execution, we'll get much more details. So that's where the more important part is. But you would then have an untouched base, more money coming in. You're going to have your May settlement coming into this money. into these funds, and then if treasurer, if they're looking at the ability in December to do the same thing, you would also have your December settlement. I don't know what that number would be, but the number's gonna be millions. It will be in the general fund. This would be able to then have probably the most significant number that you've had in general fund over the past few years. I'm not saying the most, but that is one option of using that and then put there. So that's something I would ask the council at least to think about or to consider. It's not gonna come up for a vote, and you would need much more detailed information. But I would like to say that is one of the options that is a possibility. You would expect to have in there, then the goal would be by December 31st, to have your books clean. They're squared completely, and to have a very significant number in your general fund, a number that's not been seen here, in a recent time. That's just one of the options to consider between now. If you have any questions on that or anything you want to look at more, but that's just really an option. So with those, within the services, with your books, reason why would that even be suggested? Everyone in this room already knows that's drove in here. I mean, you can see the gas sign stations. I believe it's $4.29 to $4.39 a day. Opinion. Nothing I'm going to say now is factual, and I'll keep it very brief. Opinion. Obviously, my age, I didn't live through the Depression, but growing up and in adulthood, I knew many people that did, and they talked about what that was like, going through there. In the 1980s, very firsthand, clearly saw watch factories close all over Marion County, in Anderson, in Kokomo, in Marion. Those factories that all closed 40 years ago, they're still closed. They never reopened. My concern here, personal opinion, and this is the part I know that, we're on YouTube saying this in front of everyone. I hope everybody can come back and say, in 2 months, man, I gotta know what he's talking about this bad economic times, but there's certain signs that are clearly out there. We're looking at the highest inflation since those 80s in 40 years. You're looking at fuel prices for personal gasoline at around $4 a gallon plus. Diesel fuel for all the trucking is about $5. I don't think Greg would be mad at telling it. Those vehicles on those diesel fuels only get somewhere in the range of about 4 to 5 miles per gallon. I mean, this isn't a 20 mile an hour one. So when you're talking about $5 roughly, you're talking about moving 4 miles down the road. There are supply chain issues, there are inflationary issues. My personal opinion just there is for Owen County to be in its very best financial position that it possibly can. There's other counties that are already having some struggles. Delaware County at their meeting, they had every department head that came up and said, very similar here. We can't find anybody. We can't hire anybody. We are short-staffed. We have all these problems. So knowing all of these things, my opinion is that hard times are here, but harder times are coming. And I hope that I'm wrong, and I probably can come right up to me and say, you don't know what you're talking about. I'd be the happiest person. I'm not sure that's going to occur. So for Owen County, if you prepare and have this, you would be in an area of going in with much more financial stability of looking in here. Books clean, so if we have to borrow money, we're going to be at the best possible interest rate, and you would have funds in your most, the easiest to use as far as general fund. I mean, as far as getting appropriations, you haven't touched Riverboat, and you haven't really touched Lit Ed. These would all be available in amounts that if something gets worse or something happens, that Owen County would be prepared. So those are just some things I'm ready to look at that. The other reason in saying all of that, the jail project, this would be something also for the committee council to consider. Based on the very the volatile interest rates, we're very much concerned on the supply. The people that were presenting the information, basically we're talking about bidding something out for about $15 million, which would not be a new jail, but a reconstruction of the old. I think the commissioners made a very prudent decision, and they took a vote, if you're not aware, just to put that on hold. So the jail project itself is not canceled, but it is on hold. It made really no sense, possibility. The other thing about talking about all this other, if we're probably looking at, as from a county, rather than just, okay, well, we need a loan, 8%, 9%, 10%, whatever. Obviously, that's in millions of dollars in there. There's a possibility for Owen County getting everything fiscally ready and being able to spend as much as possible upfront in the principal, and borrowing the least amount of money is probably gonna be the most prudent course for the county. This will allow, for these months, let's kind of take a look at what's going on, keeping that money in the jail fund. There's over $800,000. So that's the final point here as far as your consideration. The 1233 was a specific tax, and it's just easier just to call it the jail tax. I mean, that's just a generic term. There's really no such thing. But that is on a time limit. And then at that time, we've run another year of it. If it's going to be just put in the savings part, that's one thing for the council. The other thing might be a consideration, whether the council wants to terminate that tax and then revisit that in another year. Again, there's nothing that would be decided on there, and it's going to continue for this year anyway. But I would ask the council to kind of look at some different options of what you think would be best. I think for the sheriff, commissioners, everyone will be weighing in. Nothing that has to be discussed tonight, but just something to look at when we go into budget time about that tax. What is the best way? Most important is it all cost right now is not just to spend that, to bank that as best as possible. There's over $800,000. There's been very little been spent over this calendar year. It's going in the bank. If we were able to reduce and borrow $1 million to $3 million less, that it would make a very significant amount, then depending on the type of loan. But that's an overall picture. Everything that really overall look positive. There is a lot of things for the council to consider between this meeting and the next meeting, and then obviously during your budget possession in August. I would reiterate the same thing. The first quarter was very good about no one spending beyond means or beyond appropriations. That is absolutely critical. Sometimes I say things 3 times, so why not 10? June 30th, June 30th, June 30th. You want to have the best amount of money, particularly highway, of having money to the fund. That's when DLGF makes some of their projections. We want to have these good balances on the 30th. But you have everyone in the county staying the course, working very hard. And I would say this, for every choice the council has made between the beginning, looking at all this, all of your choices have been prudent and all of your choices have worked. So just, have whatever you want to decide, whatever information you would need. But we're definitely geared, you have positive balances at everything based on your app, and we're going into, purely opinion, possibly a recessionary time, and you've got Owen County in a very good fiscal position.
Thank you. Do you guys have any questions? That kind of ties us into the ARPA modified request, I think, that we went to the commissioners, that I went to the commissioners on, that you guys sent me. And that was specifically, we had asked to have that $2 million to rectify those accounts. And then the commissioners took that. Gary, do you want to kind of elaborate?
Sure. It was brought to us to use the $2 million to balance up the $1 million in the highway and the payroll shortage. The other the other $1 million to pay bills to help our general fund. It was brought to us with a part-time wage increase. We requested that it be the county courthouse employees and the 2 highway workers, which roughly 20 office staff, to be taken care of with a raise.
So that was modified, and so now do we need to act on that as it has come back to us?
there would be no actual appropriations tonight, so that's been approved. So what will be coming to you in June might be some very, concrete numbers for you to begin the appropriation process.
Okay. Because we want to get that as done as soon as possible, so we can get to that June 30th and have everything. Okay, anybody else? Okay, the 2022 compensation structure review and the committee update. We had another committee meeting that there was a lot of good discussion. A lot of discussion on holiday pay and how that is paid. Let's see, is Kathleen, I don't think Kathleen's here, is she? She sent, did you all received the email that Kathleen had, about how the dispatchers handled their, sick pay and their vacation?
Yeah, it's something to do with the sick bank, is that what you're referring to? Or is it
Right,
different,
she said that she was going to show how they did it, and we could take it and kind of discuss it. But there were,
I don't remember getting
yeah, I'll have to go back and look and see if that was.
She explained it beautifully, so it'd be nice to hear that.
Yeah.
Benefit from her, cause there were some differences between dates worked and accrual, and then when they were available to use, and she gave some examples, which I thought were really helpful. But it's one of those things where you have to digest it a couple times to really understand it.
I'll send, if it's not sent.
Was it that PTO sick bank document?
Yeah.
It's, okay,
Right,
got it.
so we discussed that, I think we need to look at how we handle, we have a policy for the cap for, sick pay, and vacation. And, there's a few people that have gotten over that cap, and it needs to be addressed. I think we need to discuss how to handle that. My idea, what I think would be prudent, would to possibly give them to the end of this year to rectify that and bring it under the cap. And then what they have not been able to expend, then January 1st, they would be at that cap then. So whatever they expended, they would lose. And what's everybody else's thoughts?
Well, we need to cap the liability, that's the number one thing, cause it's not really budgeted, and it's kind of a backdoor expense that needs to be resolved. And I think that using it should be the priority, before anything is spin out or liquidated. But the policy would have to be updated to reflect that, and I'm not sure, Jim, if that's,
The policy has got the cap. I mean, Jim sent that out as well.
yeah.
You
The
have.
cutoff though would need to be, if you're gonna set a cutoff at the end of the year.
What you have is roughly a half a dozen people that, when it comes to this combined vacation and sick, that have exceeded the actual cap. So we could do whether a memo or an amendment, like specifically, that none of the departments, just a reminder that no one should be exceeding from then on. It's kind of like a claim, really, it should be checked at the department level first to make sure before it's submitted about the accrual, so that way then the auditors do the second check on it. But definitely, if that's what you like, a personnel amendment could be that anyone that's grandfathered that has more time, say from May 1st to December 31st, there's a grace period to go ahead and for them to use that time with the understanding on January 1st, a true hard cap exists for all the county employees. So if you like something like that, if the council finds that satisfactory, could present that to the commissioners as far as the personnel change. if you're already approving the physical aspect of it.
Well, the gap's already in place, has been. There's nothing to change. But for the people that's gonna have to use their time to get to that cap by the end of the year, they're gonna have to use that time more than that. If the cap's 350, you're gonna have to get down below that because you got next year coming. So that means you can't gain a thing.
Yeah.
So that's something we need to look at. I mean, I know where my people are at, and everybody needs to look at, but they're gonna have to make a big adjustment. And some people are gonna have to take off a considerable amount of time this year because they won't get no time next year if they do. If you just leave it at the cap. You're gonna have to get below the cap.
Well, they would, I mean, they would just not accrue anymore, it would just be at that cap, but they would
That's
still
it,
be
but
there.
you're creating yourself a problem if you just leave it, if you get them down to the cap. Because inevitably, you're going to have overtime. And your budget for overtime does not match up the needs of the departments.
This is basically what we're talking about right now is sick pay and vacation.
It's still the same. It's kind of the same because the bank, if the cap is 350, you gotta get them below that because next year is gonna roll around. And with employees leaving and not being able to fill the spots that we have right now, people have to work to cover those shifts. So that's something.
You're saying it doesn't matter what benefit they're using, whether it's sick, comp, vacation, whatever, there's gonna be a gap in time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's inevitable.
Does anybody else have ideas on that? On how to manage that?
No, I'm just curious, for the folks that are over, I would like to see the manager, have a plan for each employee so that we know that they're going to be under the amount and this problem's gonna be taken care of. It seems to me like, this horse just won't die, and it's been this way for a very long time. And, I think we just need to know that it's done so that we're in compliance and that a plan is, set, based on this year's calendar to get under, where we need to be. So that they can accrue.
Well, let's just take the jail. I mean, we're 5 employees short in the jail. We're 4 employees short in the jail. We got 8 people running a 24-hour, 7-day week shift. I got another person leaving here at the end of the month. Somebody has to work those shifts. And if your cap on your vacation time is, we know what the cap is. And if you got a cap on comp time too, you know what that is. The overtime doesn't justify the work need. You've got to do something. You can't have 8 people running a 24-hour shift and expect them to take a week off on vacation. We don't have anybody to fill those slots. That's what we're working on. I mean, we've only got a few employees above the cap. We're trying to get them, everybody below the cap. Because you don't want them just at the cap at the end of the year because it gives you no leeway for next year. And I understand what Andy's saying, we've got to do something, but for some departments, it may be tougher than others. I don't know how other departments are. It's one, people's got 1 or 2 people in their departments. I don't know how it's gonna work for them at all. Us, I got one road guy leaving the 16th, another one leaving the 30th, and another one leaving June 30th. I'll be 3 officers on the road, be 4 officers still on the road here within 45 days. My other guys gonna have to fill those shifts. There's no way around it.
I know Suzanne has a problem, cause you're the only one in your, office, so that's,
Did you build this up since you went to the building department?
Do what?
Did you, gain this many hours since you went to the building department?
No, most of that carried with me from the assessor's office.
That's part, but
Well, yeah, so the question
shouldn't
on
you take
that,
that from, assessor's office then?
quick question, Suzanne, on that, because I thought, if I remember correctly, you might have remembered that, I thought we had paid a
No, I
claim,
have never been paid out.
because something was taken from assessment when the job change occurred.
No, they denied, I was denied that claim.
Ah,
I was denied the claim
okay,
at that time.
so there was a claim, that's what I'm thinking
It
about.
started, but they
Okay,
never got it into the auditor's office because the auditor, office, at the time, refused to take it, said that it was not allowed. So-
got it, that's what was confusing me, because I thought, but,
Kenny turned the request in.
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm picturing in my mind,
Yeah.
but, okay. Thank you for the clarification on that.
How many hours have you gained since you went to the building department, you know?
I took over, let's see, if I remember right, I took over 90 hours, 92 hours in sick, and almost 300 hours in vacation from the assessor's office. Plus now I gain comp time after evening meetings.
you had how many hours in
It
vacation?
was 92 sick, if I remember right. Somewhere around the 90, and then 100, almost 300 hours in vacation,
How many years have you been here?
over 16.
Let's see,
I think she took 1 week off last year.
Yeah, I took 1 week off last year. I was allotted about 1 week a year to be able to take off.
And now she has no support staff, so she can't take off.
Mhm.
So to use up that time, I mean, what I gave you would be 42 days, and it would take if I took them all at once, it'd take 8 weeks for me to into it down to a reasonable amount that I'd still have time, but not exceed.
Mhm.
To where I could still gain time, but could use time. And I do have a week scheduled here at the end of the month for a vacation, so. But when you're a one-person office, and Tom can even tell you that Friday, he saw the amount of people that come into my office. And so,
Well,
And with-
I believe you.
and with mine being solely based on what I can bring in, that would mean I couldn't bring any money in if I'm off.
Folks, if you remember, we went from a negative building department to a positive
Oh, yeah.
100,000 plus.
Would it be a thing that maybe we ought to think of hiring a part-time to,
What we need to do, Burl, is take our inspector and make that person a full-time position to help out when
Yeah.
she's not there.
Cause it is getting harder and harder
I
to keep
bet,
his hours down with the amount of work and amount of building right now. And that's not including him going and doing complaints, delivering signs to properties, stuff like that, to keep his hours down. You know, some days I have to schedule people out more than the 24-hour notice that we require.
So if he, I mean, if we bumped him up to full-time, I mean, would that help you on being able to take, take some
He
time off?
won't go full-time, the current inspector won't go full-time.
How many hours a week is his current position?
What is it, 20?
24, I think, 28.
Whatever, yeah.
Do you think you could find a full-time
I think
position?
if we advertise it, it's not for $14 an hour,
Yeah,
I can tell you that right now.
you wanna get somebody that has the knowledge.
Got the qualifications.
Which brings us back to the, what we had discussed on the ARPA money with bringing those 20 employees up to where they need to be. So. I don't know that we are ready to take any action on that anyway, right now. But it is something that needs to be discussed, and anybody that has, a good idea, just, we are more than happy to listen, because each department's different.
Right. Well, and I give them 5 hours every 2 weeks on vacation. So the longer it goes,
Mm-hmm,
the more this occurs.
This needs to get under control
mm-hmm.
before it goes any farther.
Yeah.
It's not gonna get any better.
Because I mean, the week I'm gonna be off is a holiday, so it's only 4 days.
So it's May.
So, yeah,
If some action was taken, do you think you could get there by the end of the year?
not with that many hours, I don't think I could get that many hours down and by the end of the year. I would have to shut the office down, that means I lose revenue.
Even with bumping up a part-time to full-time?
Well, that would, it would take time for somebody, so you're looking at how much time it would take to find somebody that's qualified to do the job. And then train them on the other stuff that needs to be done as well. So,
I guess I don't understand why it was allowed to get out of control. Because, we've got the policy and we've got the caps, but they just were not enforced.
right. Well, in the past, we were told that we didn't, State Board of Accounts wouldn't allow any of our time because we burned it. They wouldn't
I could
allow
understand
us
the
to-
comp time, but
Yeah,
the,
no, anytime,
any other-
anytime we earn couldn't be taken away because we earned it. But that was why they wouldn't force us to use it in the past, so. And trust me, it wasn't like we didn't try to use it, because I know the other employee that you had discussed in the last meeting was in the same boat as I, in the same office, so.
Sheila, what about Lynette? Are there any way that, I don't know her position, or what about, are there any way that you can kinda cut down her time at the end of the year?
As far as like,
Can you do without that position, in other words? When she's off, can somebody else?
you mean like somebody from like Lynette filling in for her when she's
Yeah.
gone, is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
That would be
Well,
up
Lynette
to,
has as much time as I, almost as
Yeah,
much time as I do.
I know it.
one of them that's on
And
that
she does
list
all the
that we
deeds.
gotta get out of
Yeah,
here.
She does the deeds, the transfers and everything for that office, so.
see, Indiana's got that too.
Mhm. Yeah, I've got 2 people I'm gonna have to get out of there between now and the end of the year. So loaning,
Have you thought about how you could do it?
I'm gonna do them. We've been discussing, one of them, they would have to take every other week just because of the workload in there. And trying, claims processing, and that is the more tough one, but I'm gonna have to get them out of there. They had these hours on the books long before I came too, so, but we'll do our best to get them down to the cap, and again, January 1st. It's just, cruel.
Why don't you think about how we can work that out, or try to suggest something to us,
Sure.
okay? And then, Gary, on Suzanne, we just about gotta have to, kinda get somebody to fill her position when she's off.
We need you guys to create a full-time position at a rate that's justified.
Won't you kinda feel out and see what our options would be? Could you do that?
It's hard to hire anybody or even talk options if you don't.
Oh, I
know what
know,
you're talking about.
yeah,
Do we have any idea what it would cost to pay the people out to get them down to the cap? Just to the cap at this stage of the ballgame like today? I mean, we know how many people are over the cap. Do we got any idea what it would cost to pay those people out? Get them to the
we
cap?
figured that out, didn't we? Could you help us with that? Tim?
Sure, I would, but if there would be, it'd be whatever the individual is and whatever their actual rate of pay is, so I can check with you. Sure, I'll get this.
Won't you come up with a figure on that?
If you could, I just throw this option out there, if you could do that by June, it gives you 7 months for the department heads, because we're gonna have another meeting, a group meeting to get, we gotta get all of our, we don't have too many above the cap, because we have to try to eliminate that, but we gotta get them below the cap before the end of the year, so they can have some legal
Right.
wiggle room by next year. So if we knew how much the county had to pay out by June, and you could pay those people out, then the department heads would have to say, okay, you're at your cap, this is it. And hopefully in these 6 or 7 months, you can get them below that
Right.
cap. Then you just gonna work on something for Suzanne to get her another person,
Well,
something to consider.
you all have the amount that it would be to pay me down to what would be under, way under the actual cap, which means that I would have enough to finish out the year and even gain,
Do you have the total on that?
Yeah, you were provided it. It's, if you paid me out the 294 hours at my current rate of pay, would be $6,597.10 at the current rate of pay.
That would bring a great deal of relief on her department,
Yeah,
just to pay that out and get that over with.
it would drop me down to 237 hours.
And Jim,
And then I can manage it, I would be better able to manage it at that point, to take half days, eat the time as it comes. But with the time the way it is, it would be everything to try to find days that I could, that's not peak times or anything like that, to make sure that I could take off. Because just last Monday, I mean, my office brought in $1,000 just in permits.
Right.
So some days are good, some days they don't bring anything in, you know,
Do
so.
you have any slow afternoons or anything? Or
No,
it's unpredictable?
right now, no, because a lot of people are wanting to build. And once some of these subdivisions get started, we're gonna have a boom
So
in permits, so.
you're one person, and so we've got more than one person in this boat as far as ours. So, and I guess my question is, it's really not just one person's total, or is it? I mean, I think you're gonna have other people come with reasons why they need the same thing. So, while you say 6,500, I think, from a council point of view, it's going to be a much greater number, and then, it just seems like we're always coming back to every year, people in this same boat, and it's like, okay, we're gonna do this, never again, we're gonna do this, never again, and then we're just right back.
Right. But like I said, once it gets down to a manageable rate, then I will make sure, because I am the person who will be responsible.
I totally
Yeah.
understand, I'm looking at this on like
Right,
grander.
Yeah, but just in my office and in general, I could manage it much better once it's down to a manageable rate. At this point, it's not there, so.
Some that are gonna be an exorbitant amount.
Do you know how many people's on, I'm sorry, do you know how many people's on that list, or how many
There's
people-
there's 9 people. There
altogether.
are 9 people altogether that are above the cap.
How many of those are mine? One or two?
Well, yours is, you don't have any over the cap, you have 2 that are just under.
Okay, and see, and I don't mean to interrupt you. So I got 34 employees, and there's only 2 that's close to the cap. So you're only talking 9 other individuals. Now, I've managed for the last 7 years to make my people keep their comp, vacation, and personal time within their limits. If you could pay the 9 people out to the cap, then the department heads, with your policy change, are gonna say, hey, boom, that's it. You can't, you're not gonna gain nothing else, it's not gonna be on your time sheet or anything like that. That's the department head move that they're going to have to make, because we keep ours in check, and my guys, we're gonna have a meeting, I'm gonna tell them, you know, guys, let's bring it down as much as we can, even though we're gonna be short-staffed. And that's where the council needs to consider just a little bit in budget times about the increase in overtime. Just, if we don't use it, no big deal.
Right.
That's something you want, it could help in the long run.
There's actually 6 people that are over the cap, the other 3 are just under, so. Gary?
Her office is another one that we can eliminate comp time, is pay time and a half. She has a meeting every month, planning commission, BZA. So you eliminate that time and you just pay it time and a half, and you don't have these discussions anymore. It's taken care of. That's one thing you've eliminated, because she's building comp time every month. Exactly, that's what I said, it needs to be paid as overtime, not comp time.
Right.
Okay, it needs to be changed to budget time.
Yes.
And you should have some kind of average on what she's getting comp time every month from these meetings to figure out what to turn it into payable overtime.
So if Jim's gonna give us the figure to pay out those, and then we can kind of go from there and, get it down and then enforce that, I think that would. Anybody else? Okay. All right, the clerk.
Do we need a vote on that for the record?
Oh, I think just request for information and.
Okay, clerk employee reassessment funds review.
First of all, what are we gonna do with Suzanne?
You have it here.
You have a figure.
Well, then we need to,
If you paid her out, that'd give her 3 extra times for her to work the rest of the year.
She brought it to the meeting.
where would that come out of?
6,500.
You've got extensions to talk about too.
I understand that.
Figuring out where to take it from.
So we're trying to avoid big payouts like that, and that's why we're trying to get them down, so things like that don't come up and then surprise us.
So on your Suzanne, what is the amount to bring her to that cap then?
To the cap?
Yeah, what's that part?
Below, well, what I estimated was below the cap to
Right.
give me enough time that I can.
I'm thinking for now though, to allow more time here and something more consistent.
Yeah.
What kind of number are we looking at there?
What's the
It
cap?
also started, we started
350.
when Patty,
And that 350 for vacation and sick
That's gonna start at the.
combined,
We talked about it at.
no comp time.
With, wage committee
Yeah, got that.
and.
I'm saying is there a request for the pay out that and then on this? Because I feel like we're rolling into a big snowball. And what, my question is, does it set a precedent? You know, just kind of wondering the scope of it.
Because like,
Total number is?
34, 570, and 46 cents around roughly.
alright, say that
So
again.
about half of the total that you came up with would be to bring whatever you're at here, the 531, down to the 350 essentially.
Right.
And that's already figured, we know that. If we're gonna apply something consistent here, I think even if that's the first step, I'm not saying that's the final in your case, but I'm saying from a consistency standpoint, if we're gonna give Jim an opportunity to figure the math,
Yeah.
if we're gonna apply the same, method to everyone that's over the cap, that would be at least a good first step.
Yeah.
You know, just throwing that out as an idea.
Yeah, the time that I gave you, the hours were 42 days.
The other thing.
Yeah.
Would add up to 42 days, and
Take a
8
half,
weeks,
and can they manage?
a little over 8 weeks. If I took them
mean,
If you took them,
that's my.
all together.
Yeah.
That still left me with 43 days,
yeah.
I'm just doing one.
even with that.
If she gets it.
And I
If she.
I would
only paid out
think
half,
going down to the lowest, and then I don't get back to the cap,
down that
would be the
time.
better option, because then at least I'm below that level, and I can still accrue time, but work it out as we go along through the rest of the year.
And I think that's still something that probably could be done or revisited. I'm just thinking from what Councilman Wood mentioned, you know, we've got to think about the broader picture here, and if we have others that might come next month and the next month to be paid out, that grand total is not doable, that's not feasible. So we've got to have some kind of a planned approach here to tackle the issue. I think at a minimum, getting her down to the cap is the first step. And we know that we'll be getting figures for the other individuals to get them down to their cap. Then there'll be more time to think about the building inspector.
But I have enough
And
comp
those
time
kind of
to
things.
cover 1 week.
Yeah, and this
The rest
is,
of the week that I'm gonna be off, so then that just means that I'm gonna start accruing again. So it really needs to go below the cap. It doesn't need to be at the cap, because then that's more difficult to try to get back down. If you go below the caps, then at least that gives you a cushion.
And it's just gonna keep costing us
Yeah, it's
more.
just gonna keep to try to keep up with it.
But if you go below,
If we go below,
we're
then at
safe,
least I have a
safe
buffer.
zone, yeah.
You know, I have a buffer there that
it'll still accumulate though.
I would still accumulate, but I would work on making sure that
It
I can
wouldn't go
keep it
over.
down. You know, take an afternoon here and there when it is slow, when the day's slow. You know, and take an afternoon off, eat 3 hours in, you know, that would work over time.
I think that what everybody's a little concerned over, I mean, there's some that have a significant, like, there's one individual that has 198 hours over. And it's, I mean, I think that's what everybody's concerned about, on how to.
But she's the only one,
Mhm.
so she has to keep working. The others aren't just one person, are they? Maybe Jack White. I mean, the one that's 198 should be able to take off a lot of time,
Well, it
because
shouldn't have
there's.
accrued to that.
No, I know, but
beginning.
it did. But there are other people to cover her. She's just gonna keep getting more time because she's only one person.
Well, do we wanna act on Suzanne's request? I think we've talked it
Yes.
enough.
I do too.
So, what's,
I have no problem going to the cap, just in fairness, and that's a step in the right direction. I know that's not exactly what is wanted 100%, but it's a step in that direction. And it'd be more consistent in terms of other positions that are in the same situation. Now, if in the next 30 days after that, there's this plan put together to tackle your specific issue in your department because you're the only employee, that's great. I don't have any problem with that, but I'm thinking if we're gonna take action tonight, just from a consistency standpoint, I would be in favor of that. And get this hard line drawn and get that off our list. That's why I'm thinking the way I am on that.
I'd like to know from Jim if you think that there's we need to draw up some options, whether it's all or half or to the cap or whatever, and there's some scenarios that can be painted to be better informed.
Well, yeah, council, there would be, obviously, if we just call this option A, we'll be just taking everyone to the cap, okay? So there's one, and that would give you an amount. If you want to do, then let's say, I am making this up, like an option B, and you wanna get 2 weeks under the cap, or roughly 70 hours under, then you would have an amount there. It would also, I think, the council would wanna know where this would be coming from. Now, building is, for the most part, completely self-funded, we don't have the general fund. The others would be, general fund, and I think we talked earlier about trying to do everything we possibly can, not to drain in that area. But, there definitely could be, options with real numbers, but like I would say, the first one you would need to know is, because this was dated April 13th, roughly 4 weeks have come and gone, there'd be some accrual. Who do you have exactly, which fund it would come from, and then what's the amount, cap only, what's the amount at whatever be the pleasure of the council that you would want under, even below the cap to go on. But the other clear thing to say, that this is just like putting a claim, so from the department heads on, like looking, elected official, whatever it is, there should be an evaluation before payroll is turned in. Has any accrual went over? There would be a second step with the auditor's office of double checking as far as the amount. It's my understanding the county council has not approved any exceedance of this policy. These are the numbers, and been the numbers for several years. But I could, by the next meeting, working with the auditor, give you the different options, the different amounts, and where it would come. It would delay any decision made for 4 weeks, I'm cognitive of that, but that'd be the earliest that it could be done for what's being requested.
I have a quick question, and I must not be getting this, but if we don't take Suzanne's under the cap, how is it just not gonna be more
It's gonna be
in the
by the end of the week.
in the next week?
Well, I understand that.
Well, then you're getting nowhere fast.
If you're taking the money, I have a cash balance over 50,000. So if you're gonna pay it out, you can pay it out of my cash balance. And then you get it all taken out of what I brought in. It doesn't come out of the general fund, it's coming out of my own fund.
To me, it
It
makes
really-
sense, and it would be the best thing for us to do about it.
Because yours is more of it's a unique situation, because you do have, like you said, you have your cash balance, and you're the only one in there, so,
Yeah.
yours would be easier to rectify than
If you took it out of my
others.
cash balance, then it's right there. And then you
And it's not going to get any more.
So what I'm
Why
hearing,
not let it get over?
so what I'm hearing is that the idea of dealing with her tonight and then a plan for everybody else by the next meeting, is that the,
That sounds like a good plan to me. So let's go ahead and, does anybody want to make a motion about Suzanne's?
I'll make the motion that we, pay the $6,597.10. The amount, total hours to be paid out, 294.172.
Out of her,
Yeah, out of her cash balance.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Roll seconded? Any more discussion?
I just, you know where I stand on this, I mean, I'm gonna vote no, but I think that we should be consistent in this, and we are stepping in the right direction, I think we should give that a fair shake. And if there is additional follow-up needed, like in your case, or any other office that might be a single individual, then I'm all for that. I just think there needs to be a process to that, because there's nothing preventing the other 8 people or so from coming in and saying, well, I don't wanna be paid to the cap, I wanna be paid to the cap plus 50% or all of it even. And so then we're just gonna be making these judgment calls every meeting that this comes up, and that's what I would like to prevent. So that's kind of where I'm standing on that, but.
And I want you to know, I wanna look at this from a broader brush, you know, it's not.
Any other discussion? Let's take a vote. All those
Council,
in-
wait, just
Yeah.
one issue.
Uh-huh.
In your motion there, are you clarifying whether if you approve or disapprove that this is a unique situation, that it's self-funded, and it's a one-person office? I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, that's it, and Red put together.
Yeah.
So does that need to be put in the
Well, it's
motion
just
then?
the concern, because to the council mentioned, we plan this each month, but my office is very busy too, and different things, so I'm just asking for myself, and trying to understand what I'm getting ready to propose to you for the next month, that you see this as a quite unique and distinct, but because it's a one-person operation, the person's doing multiple jobs, it has to have someone there, and that, there was a claim earlier and that was denied. I just want to make sure, is that the understanding? This is
Yes.
a very unique and distinct, reason why this action will be taken.
And for me, a big positive is that she has her cash balance that she can pay this out of, so it's not going to, put a drain on the general fund, so that's why okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? 3-2, motion carried. Okay,
We have to have a public hearing for additional appropriation.
Okay.
Has to be at the next meeting in June, because it's additional monies, so.
even though, yeah. Okay, now.
On the clerk, right?
Yeah, the clerk employee, the reassessment funds review. I think this was when we talked about it coming out of the reassessment. I think that's when we thought it was something that was built up and it was all comp time. And that was not the case, so I think that's something that we need to kind of clarify and revisit. Because when we were all that was accrued, we thought it was all accrued in the assessor's office, and it was more of a countywide, sick and vacation pay accrual, so. Anybody else have anything? So we,
I mean, I don't think
There
there's
really isn't any further action on it. We already took action.
You had voted to possibly, or to pay it from reassessment. Dustin wasn't here, so he wants to weigh in. And you also were having me check to see if we could encumber it still, if there were funds left in last year's budget, instead of requesting additional appropriations. Book-wise, it would be better to encumber it. There was plenty of funds left because there were open positions or monies that weren't spent due to staff cuts in that last year. So, again, you can either encumber it or do an additional appropriation. He does have a cash balance, but he also wants to kind of talk because it is his fund. And again, because it was mostly comp time that was discussed, it really wasn't
right,
2 hours of comp.
so Dusty, what do you?
So you ready?
Yes.
Good, everybody paying attention, this is gonna be fun. So here's what I see. All that time was acquired and accrued in the assessor's office. The problem with it is you've already taken over $500,000 from the assessor's office. So in reality, all that money that is accrued, you've already taken. That money should have came out of that money. This is kind of a county thing. Absolutely, if we're gonna pay it from somewhere, it should come out of the assessor's office. But we're down to 2 people, we're all brand new, and we need to save any money we can because there's a lot of needs in that office. That's kind of my spiel.
The only thing of it is, we could have took that out of your office for,
Both of them, I know.
Suzanne, so, you know,
And
and I know that it wasn't your fault, I understand.
And I'm not saying it's your all's fault either, don't
You know,
get me
I
wrong.
know that, but
All that time was acquired previous.
yeah,
And if that money you've already taken,
yeah,
is my point. Now,
but we didn't know that either,
well, no,
so.
not saying that either, but
But I think for its fairness, if we don't touch that at all with Suzanne's part, I think that we ought to take it out of yours, cause that really where it was accumulated from.
well, and I disagree.
You,
I would disagree. I agree.
It wasn't accumulated from there?
Well, yes, it was, but all that money that was accumulated in that time, you've taken already. That's the whole point of it, is all that money that, in that 15 years of time that she was here, all that money's gone. You guys have taken.
We didn't have nothing to do with that.
I'm not saying.
You see what I mean?
I get it, I'm just saying.
And I think that.
We've cut and we've cut and we've cut, and my job's come in here and fight you for more money.
No, I know, and I appreciate that, because that's your job too, but I think at this time, in the position we are, that's just my opinion. And we needed a,
So when you, Dusty, when you say that money's already been taken, so I assume you just, and I'm trying to wrap my hands around it, but head around it, you just mean in principle because you gave up, or that office gave up money this past year? Is that what?
No, not this past year, over the last couple of years, that we dwindled down to nothing. And honestly, I think there's money in there, and I think there's enough to pay her. That be said, the problem isn't that, the problem is, stop frickin' spending money. We need 2 more, I at least need another employee. We're brand new office. The girls, I've got 3 new girls and they're doing great, and we're getting our lunch ate daily. We don't even have enough time to go to the classes we need to go to. There ain't enough of us. All I'm saying is, don't run me down to 0, because we're gonna need some money. But over the last several years, you've taken over $500,000. The council has taken over $500,000 roughly from the assessor's office. That money was accumulated over that period of time where she accrued that money, that time. You've already taken it, that's my point. You can do what you need to do, but she'd be proud of me, and you know she would.
oh yeah, I know that, but I mean, but actually the council didn't.
The $500,000?
So Dusty, just for clarification, because, you know, folks are listening in, they're thinking $500,000 taken. I'm not myself understanding where
The
that
tax
money
levy.
was taken from. Tax levy.
You took the levy 2 years in a row.
We didn't take it, just the
Well, the
levy.
levy was dropped to 0 for 2 years.
That was
Back-
not,
Back a few
and
years
that was
ago,
not the
that's what he's
council
talking
fault.
about, is
That
that the
was
levy,
not the
that
council
would have
fault.
garnered about $300,000 a year.
okay.
That makes
So
more
that's what he's
sense.
saying, that's what
Okay,
he's talking
I'm trying to think, the balance in the fund and we're not appropriating anything from it,
For
so,
2
okay.
years, it went down to 0, where the reassessment gained no money whatsoever for 2 years of taxes. And then it had to be put back because they ran out of their cash balance.
Okay, let's
So-
clarify, who was the one that took it down to 0?
What's the
It was,
assessment
it
balance?
was done during, when the tax rates were done.
Yeah, there was no action by this council taken.
Right, but that was, if you go back to the 2 years, there's 2 years there that it was taken down to 0.
Ask Chris.
That's what it's talking about.
Well, I just want I want the position,
Yeah.
yeah.
As of today,
So-
134.
In my understanding, it was the previous auditor that did that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. All right, that's what I wanted there. So we still need to figure out whether we're going to take,
So the original action from April was to take it from reassessment. And that's the part we need to debate. Do we want to follow through on that, or do we want to reverse that? Is that the question in front of us?
yeah, we didn't have, I don't think we had a motion on that.
Is that right?
If it was not coming out of reassessment, where would it come out?
Well, the original motion was,
We've already made a motion for that.
it was withdrawn, and then the motion was to take it out of reassessment.
Yeah.
And that's where the issue, that's where the
Did we
concern
vote?
is.
I mean-
And we did vote on that according to.
So the actual motion would be, do we want to reverse course?
Right, right. And I mean, I don't have any particular objection to that. I was in favor of using Riverboat originally, and I wouldn't have a problem doing that again if we're gonna redo it. Cause Riverboat is a non-levied fund, reassessment is, so.
So what is the rate of growth expected to be in reassessment this year? Now that that's been
And that's,
fixed or rectified, I mean, what kind of cash balance is he looking at by the end of the year? Do we know that? Do you know that?
Well, if revenue matches planned expenses for the budget, then you're not gonna see any change in the cash balance, cause it would balance out. The big issue is if he were to go over budget, or have some other emergency or software or some kind of, something he wants to use that cash balance for, that would be where the impact would be. And I think that's part of your argument, Dusty, right, is that
Correct.
if you did have something needed for the office, let's say a certain software or something that needed to be done, you would hate to see the balance depleted
Correct.
to the point where you're not able to do that. So,
So does someone want to make a motion to take it out of Riverboat, or are we just discussing this?
well, I mean, I'll make a motion, we reverse our action from the last meeting, which was to take it out of reassessment, Fund 1188, and re-advertise and appropriate the same dollar amount out of Riverboat.
Motion's on the floor, is there a second? Motion dies. Okay, now Sheila, were we adding on the, discussion of holiday pay on old business, is that,
Yes.
okay?
Clarification, this is still to be advertised to be paid from reassessment. That's okay. And the holiday pay again was something that was discussed in the last meeting and should have been on the agenda again. So we have, we were able to come up with numbers. Kathleen came up with hers and we came up with the sheriff's department, on what the estimated amounts were. I don't know if Chris was able to get his pulled together too, so,
So just to recap, just for what happened here, so the policy was updated a while ago. And in whatever next quarter occurred after that, there was a few employees that were not paid in accordance to the new policy. They were paid under the old. And so there was an overage for those individuals. Everybody else was fine. And then it was fine for everybody in the following quarters. So it's just that one time where a few people, it wasn't figured correctly.
correct.
Okay. So at our wage committee meeting, we talked about this, and the consensus was that we, as a goodwill gesture to those all employees, is the ones that got it incorrectly, keep it, because that seemed to be and I'm just reiterating what the council said. They get to keep it, we're not gonna take it away from anybody for those people that got it. But then in fairness to the others that would otherwise qualify, the thought was doing the difference, again, one-time amount, figuring the amount and then appropriating that and then being done with it, because the policy's already changed, it's already been set. Is that correct, Pauline?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we do have, Chris, you wanna,
Here's
your,
copies of
oh, okay.
Here you go.
911 and sheriff's.
Which one do you want me to share, the 24?
Well, he had it figured on the 16 hours and then the 24, explain, yeah.
You know, we work 24-hour shifts. So, the first number, we pay 16 plus the 8 hours time comes to 24. So I figured it on 16 hours, and then I also figured it on 24 hours. On the left side of the paper, I'll show what it comes to, 16 hours. And the left side of the paper on this one I'm handing out is for 24 hours, if you're gonna pay the full 24. It's quite a bit of money.
So Chris, before the change in the policy, which was it of these two?
We paid 8, like we've always said,
Okay. And that's
You remember originally, the EMS didn't receive any
right.
any
Get any at
holiday
all.
pay at all. There was a new sheriff came, not the current sheriff, that just started paying his employees holiday pay. So we came, as EMS came to you and like, we're the only ones in the county not getting this. So we tried to be fair and looked at what other county employees were getting, which was 8 hours, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a benefit, so that's what we were getting, was 8 hours.
And that's
We've always paid.
that's your first one, illustration?
Well, no.
Hmm.
No, but what's happened is now if you're gonna pay the other employees 10 hours, because that's the number of hours they work in a day, and the other group of employees 12 hours, because that's how many hours they work in a day, it would only be fair to pay EMS 24, because that's how many they work in a day.
Yeah, I think,
That's,
I'm not sure that's the direction,
well, that's what I was told to put together, so.
I think that the ones that were paid incorrectly, we're talking 4 hours for most of them. So it would be 4 hours for everybody, right? Is that correct?
How you wanna view it per the policy, and you're paid at 10 hours for the total over was 2 pay periods of 4 hours each, or 8 hours total.
Right.
For each one of them.
Say that again, Sheila, I didn't hear you.
They were paid for 2 periods, which would a total of 8 hours, or 4 hours for each of the holidays for that group of employees. So if you're going to compare it to just what they were overpaid, if you give 4 hours to Christmas people and the differences to the dispatch people of that 4 hours, that would be one set of numbers, which would be what was already paid out. It would all match that 4 hours.
That bring everybody even, then if everybody was paid the extra 4 hours, then
That would be what the others that were paid would, that would match what the others were overpaid.
That was the point of our meeting,
Mhm.
was that if these employees are gonna keep the hours they were overpaid, which is only 4.
Right.
In most cases, then it would only be fair to allow the rest of the employees that would otherwise qualify also get paid 4 more hours, because they weren't given that.
Does that include the courthouse employees also?
No, they don't qualify for holiday pay. So, if we just do the math on 4 hours, it wouldn't be such a large figure, of course, and it would be consistent, so that'd be a good outcome. That'd be pretty easy math, I think, to figure.
this is a one-time, I mean,
Yeah.
it was a one-time mistake, and so it's, you know, I think what we're looking to do is to
Trying to err on the side of the employee here, you know.
trying to make it fair of the ones that were paid that extra.
So you just want it refigured for 4 hours for all of those that
The
qualify.
ones that, you know, qualified and did not get paid.
What were some of these that had 8 on them? What were those for? There were 2 here that had 8 on them.
That is the sheriffs, they work different shifts, I believe it was, and more, I don't, Sherry put these together. He worked double time, he worked 8 hours over his regular
Could've.
shift, I'm sure with being Bill and Levi Miller, that they probably work double shifts.
So, is that the consensus, basically? Is everybody,
That would bring everybody up and kind of square it away
Alright,
where,
I'm gonna make a motion. And that's the 4 hour, what's the best way to put that?
Figure all at 4 hour, match the overpayment, equal overpayment of the others. And we'll come up with an exact number. Do you want the motion to include, to go ahead and pay that? It would also be an additional appropriation because it's not in their 3 budgets to do that. So it would have to come back with a final number, be advertised for a public hearing also at the next meeting.
Out of their respective funds that normally would handle that, yeah.
Alright, so moved. I'll let you, rattle off all that.
okay, we have a motion on the floor to pay all of the employees that qualified the extra 4 hours, with Sheila to come back with the exact numbers and have a public hearing with the additional appropriations from the specified funds. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried.
Madam President, I'm gonna make a suggestion with the being 8:30 and there being kids out here, whoever they're with, if we could
That's,
move them.
okay, that's fine. So, okay, General Purdue Extension update.
All right, well, thanks for having us tonight. So we annually give an extension report to council, so that's what we're here to do. I brought a couple of 4-H youth with me this evening to share with you a little bit about their experiences in the 4-H program. I'll let them go ahead and go first, and then if you and your parents would like to head out after that, you're welcome, and then I'll finish with the updates on the other program areas, and then we can talk about the retirement that got paid out. So I will go ahead and introduce, and then they can go in whatever order they wish. This is Eileen Swan, this is Sam Loxton, and I'm gonna let them take over.
So first I'd like to go over how 4-H has impacted me, as it has taught me leadership skills which are really useful, because if you want to be in the workforce, you're going to have to know how to lead people. If you get a leading job such as president, CEO, any of those high-placing jobs. It also helped my confidence in public speaking skills, because you have to talk to the judges and just be confident in front of people and teach them stuff. It also helps follow guidelines, because each product has guidelines you have to follow, and with the workforce, you're going to have to follow guidelines on projects, like in 4-H. And it also helps people work with animals and other people, as talking, just interacting with people, and show animals. It helps impact the community by, for example, the Thanksgiving pantry pickups that some 4-Hers did, collecting the items for the homeless, making blankets for the nursing home, registering and delivering food boxes. What else would anyone like to know about the impact of it?
Good presentation.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
So, 4-H has helped impact me with my public speaking skills and talking and being able to socialize more to the public and with the community and the club that I'm currently in. And it has helped with my planning skills, like what events I'm going to attend and not attend, and what I'm going to do in those events. And like, to wrap up on my social skills, it has helped me with my social ability and like meeting new friends. And 4-H has helped impact me with my community and like my leadership skills, and my officer roles will show like the younger 4-Hers how to help with guidelines, and that'll get them as a role model when they are older, and that will help impact them with younger community.
Very good.
Thank you.
So, yeah, one thing they didn't tell you is both of them have been very active and very good leaders in the program. Sam's a junior leader. Eileen is not old enough yet to be junior, fourth grade. Eileen's the 4th grade. So as soon as she's old enough, as a 7th grader, I am certain she'll be in the junior leader program. But both have been very active and been involved in lots of the different programs, and I'll share with you some of the programs that we've talked about. But I'm gonna go ahead and let them get going because they have school tomorrow. So they've been very patient, and I think maybe learned a little bit. And then this experience also kind of covers in that civic engagement piece that's important in 4-H. They've come and they've learned quite a bit about how county council operates, so. You guys?
Thank you, good job, you guys.
I don't think I have anything else.
Thanks for coming to talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Running us out.
Your water?
Yeah, thank you for reminding me.
No worries. So I gave you guys a packet earlier with some updates on all the programs. So as you know, Extension is not just 4-H, but that is my full-time position, 4-H youth development. I also am the CED, so I'm the director at the office. You have a written summary there of the 4-H program. I'm gonna share a little more with you. There's also a written summary from our HHS educator, which is Health and Human Sciences, and from our A&R educator, that's Ag and Natural Resources. So it's not just 4-H that services that Extension provides. We have those educators here in the county. We also provide community development services through regional community development educators and some of the community development programs I myself can facilitate. And there's a lot of great stuff that can be done. I know some of you have been involved in some of those workshops before where we've talked about state economy. There's a lot of workforce development opportunities through those services as well. So backing up, and anytime you guys have any questions as I'm talking, just shout out and let me know, okay? So first off, some state statistics quickly. So in 2019, 97.4% of our programming was delivered in person. And then a little thing called COVID happened. And in 2020, 39.2% of that programming was in person, which means the remaining was virtual. So Extension did quite a pivot and was able to still provide services to a large number of people, not just in this county, but statewide. In 2021, we were back up to about 58.5%, and that included a doubling of direct contacts. And countywide, our statistics were pretty on track with the state statistics. So we're back up, but still we have been able to absorb some of that, what we've learned about delivering virtually into the programming that we're doing. So especially our A&R Ag and HHS educators are doing a lot of both things. So that is happening. Another thing that happened statewide, there was a survey out to stakeholders, meaning just community members, people in the communities, and again, that included people in Owen County. And there were 4 top issues that came out as the most important things that people want to see Extension addressing. So the first and foremost was 4-H youth positive development. So that is the number 1 issue that was mentioned as important to community members. Number 2, food production, security and safety. Number 3, workforce development, and number 4, digital ag, digital literacy, and broadband. So all of that digital and those kinds of services to help bring the information from Purdue that's data-based to the communities, including Owen County. So we are doing those things, and we're doing those things here in Owen County, not just the 3 educators that are here, but also we can tap into those services statewide to bring those things here. And that's part of what is covered with that contractual services agreement. 4-H specifically, it's been a long evening, you guys. And I know, obviously, I've been in your seat, so I know how long it can be, and I know somebody rattling off a lot of things kind of gets lost. So that written stuff, you have it, take it, there's some pictures there. Take a look at some of those things that I'm super proud of in 4-H, but there are a couple else I want to mention. One thing that is on there, you might see down there, statewide honors that we've had in the past year. We had a state scholarship winner last year, that was Cody Morris, and a state scholarship winner this year, Bree Davis. So we're so proud of the 2 of them. On top of that, Bree was selected as one of the Indiana 4-H state ambassadors in the state, 8 of them. 8 of them in the state, and 1 of them came from here in Owen County. So we are super proud of Bree, and the fact that our name in Owen County is out there as one of the leading counties in 4-H because of the work that she's been able to do. in that program, in the ambassador program, she's been able to make, to have a voice statewide in what 4-H leadership development is gonna look like from the youth perspective. She met, along with the other ambassadors, with the governor. They had lunch together, and they were at the opening ceremonies for the state fair. So they've done some great things statewide, and we're very proud of that. Some other things that I wanna mention, so we've done some really unique programming here in the county, and one thing I want to really drive home, I don't talk a lot about the fair in that update that I give. I'm not gonna talk a lot about the fair tonight, because everybody knows about the fair, everybody knows about showing the livestock. It's the things you all don't know about, that we are doing year-round in youth development. Okay, I'm doing a mentor series I started. Anton was helpful in that. Anton has signed on as one of our mentors in civic engagement. Eric Bassler is another that is one of our mentors in civic engagement. We were able to come and take a tour of the courthouse. It was fabulous. We had a nice group of kids that were able to be here, asked a lot of questions, got to see a lot of things, and really got to experience some of that. We've had some other mentor series. Chris did one for us I think it was it just last week, Chris? With a group of youth that came out to EMS and learned about careers in EMS and got to see the building. So we're going to continue with that series with different people around the community that are able to share with our youth, not just the facilities and the things that they do, but how our youth can make those things a career. Healthy living, we talk a lot in 4-H about healthy living skills. And one of the things that you have here that not a lot of you have is a certified youth mental health instructor, and that's me. So I'm part of a team of 10, actually it's 8 now because we've had 2 retire. A team of 8 people in the state that can teach youth mental health first aid for Purdue University. And 5 of us went to Washington DC recently to learn some more, and one of the things that I brought back from there is we are going to make a real effort to bring what's called teen mental health first aid, so that the teens are trained to help their peers in times of crisis, mental health crisis. So that's one of the big pieces that I hope to see happen here in the next year and a half. I did a Beyond High School series where we talked to juniors and seniors about how to plan for life after high school and what that looks like. The leadership skills that we learn in our performing arts program. And we had a performing arts contest on April 6th at the Tivoli with several acts that were wonderful. And I talked a little bit about her public speaking skills, and that's what we're doing. We're teaching these kids to be able to present themselves in public as leaders, not just with their peers, but in their community. And we're training them to do that so that when they're adults, they can sit in these seats. They can make these kinds of decisions for the county and be competent and capable to do those things. We recently, April 23rd and 24th, we did a full-scale production at the Tivoli with Babe the Sheep Pig. I had a cast of 15, and the youngest cast I've ever worked with. Most of our kids were 3rd grade or below, right? My lead was a kindergartner. So it was absolutely fabulous. And again, we're getting those kids on stage young so that they can learn how to present themselves in public and learn those skills, and they'll continue to learn and hone those skills as they grow and move through the program. Sorry, turning my page. We've had book clubs, we've had education station activities where we do STEM activities. Bubble science and cookie science are 2 of the most popular programs that I've got going. So you can imagine, kids love bubbles, kids love cookies, and there's a lot of science that goes into those. Our small animal clubs. So again, I talked about the fact that most people, when they think of 4-H, automatically think of the large livestock, showing their pig, showing their cow, showing their goat. But our small animal clubs are booming. They are booming. Cat, dog, poultry, rabbit, 4 of our fastest growing clubs. I was at a rabbit club meeting the other night and the room was full. And these kids are doing amazing things. So I am really looking forward to what that means over the next year. with what we can do with those small animal clubs. The gardening clubs that we have, just recently, 4-H, Indiana 4-H Foundation gave grants called Yes Grants to those that applied. We got two. I mean, last year, only 13 were given out statewide, and this year we got 2. I don't know how many total, I haven't gotten the final report on what was given this year, but when you look at last year, only 13 were given, and this year Owen County got 2. So one of those is developing more of that community garden that's on that lot, back over behind kind of the extension office. So we've got those going, as well as the gardens around the office. Other things I do, volunteer development, because 4-H wouldn't run without volunteers, right? So I'm trying to do a better job of training and have trainings in the fall, trainings in the spring, and trainings for our livestock superintendents as we get ready for fair. We have a hope, there's a grant opportunity out of Community Foundation I'm going to apply for, and my hope is that that will help me expand clubs into schools, because the #1 barrier to involvement in youth development in this county is transportation. Kids can't get there. So what I'm hoping to do is take it to them. If I can find some money somewhere, and hopefully that's through the grant option, then I've got half of it already taken care of. They're at school, they stay after school, do a club, and then I can get them home with whatever transportation I can pay for with whatever grant monies I can find. And that I think will greatly impact the number of kids that are able to participate in 4-H programming. The other thing about 4-H programming, when you look at enrollment numbers, that's not the answer. I mean, that's not the final answer, right? I'm impacting other youth that are not necessarily enrolled in 4-H. So every time I do a public program, any kid can come, and that always happens. So I'm impacting a lot more kids than what you see in enrollment numbers. Same thing for any virtual programming that we do. That is something that people can hop on and learn from. Anything that's posted on YouTube, that's another way to reach. So there's a lot of things. I've only touched the surface on what I'm telling you, because we are working year round. And I always have people say, oh, it's coming up on your busy season. I don't have a busy season, my whole year is busy. But yes, definitely summer is much longer and later for the weeks of the fair. Any questions about 4-H?
I know you said the enrollment's not the number, but how, I mean, I'm just curious how.
So on the letter, I gave you the numbers up
Yeah,
the
I saw
top.
that, but what's that
checked.
compared to like years past?
That's pretty comparable to the last 2 or 3 years, because we're gonna still enroll, right? So we enroll kids all the way up to fair. And we always have kids, so I'm on track to be almost exactly where I was last year, which was about 265 at the end of the year for enrolled 4-Hers. Again, kids can participate in programming without being involved as enrolled 4-Hers.
I was just curious because I know Rob's Rifle Club is way down, so that's just, I'm just curious if that was across the board or.
It's nationwide. It's not just statewide, it's nationwide, yeah. And again, that's impacted by a lot of things. Kids are heavily involved in lots of different activities, and COVID didn't help.
Sports hurts a lot.
So I will leave with you the summaries from A&R and our HHS, so as not to take up more time for the business that you have to do tonight, but please look those over, please, please, please. Because I invite you all to everything that we're doing, right? We had an extension dinner recently. I would have loved to have seen more of your faces there. Obviously, stop by and see us at the fair. Anytime we're doing anything out in the public, please come by, just drop in, see what's happening. Give me a call, I'll show you around. We can go to a club meeting. Whatever it is, I am happy to have you come and see what's going on here, because it's very exciting. And it's really impactful, as you heard the 2 young people tonight. It's very impactful, not just to them as individuals, but what they can do for the community. Questions? You ready to talk about the payout for my retiree? Cause, let's talk about the fun stuff, right? So I got the numbers and I put those there for you. I think you already had, I think Sheila had already gotten you the printout there of the numbers that Sherry gave me. So I'm trying to recover as much of that loss as I could, on my own, through my own budget, but my budget's already so tight. I think we're gonna need a little extra help, but the biggest part is going to be, the fact that my new hire is at a much lower rate, because my retiree retired with 26 years experience, and my new hire has none. So that makes a big difference, as well as the fact that she has been taking some unpaid time off, which has helped some. But that's not gonna make up the full difference, so.
So of the total net amount that you say you're gonna be short, so originally you were at 7,300, right?
Yes, I believe
Originally,
that's it.
gross
Yes.
amount. I'm just rounding
right
the
up here.
number.
Yep.
And now you're down to about 3,000.
Yeah.
Does that 3,000 take into account any projected days where your new employee may not be in the office
It
during?
does not.
Okay.
It does not. So the conversation I had with her is, thankfully, her spouse is doing well, and able to do some of those things without her, as well as the fact that they do have some help coming. There are gonna be days here and there that she will need to be out, but I'm not gonna be able to count on that as we have up to this point.
And it might be a few $100s.
Yeah, it'll be minimal. I mean, it'll be some, but minimal.
I was just curious, so another 10% of that maybe.
Yeah, cause we're very happy that her husband is doing so well.
Definitely. Okay. And there's no other sources of revenue, no other
You know,
grants,
so we
no
don't
other-
bring in revenue in
Okay.
extension, it's a service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I try to, I mean, there are things that we do for fee, but that pays the expenses of the programming.
And this 3,000 is what you feel like you'll be short by the end of the year.
Yeah, and Sherry helped me figure that out. In fact, this is just, I just copied and pasted her email here, with the numbers that she calculated for me.
Yeah, and it can't be the general fund. So,
Oh, we haven't ran it yet.
riverboat.
Do we need to give the full amount now, or could a possibility be like half now and half?
Yeah, so currently, just from an operational standpoint, the line item is still in the black and will be
Right.
for a
Yeah.
good portion of the year.
I mean, I figured it's gonna take us to.
October, maybe?
Yeah, I
November?
figured like beginning of November is kinda maybe, yeah,
So
that's what I was
technically, you
thinking.
could revisit, you don't necessarily have to take action tonight.
Yeah, that's up
see
to you
where it
all, but
goes.
you needed
I
to know.
mean, maybe there would be like, between now and then,
There
come
might
up
be
with something.
A few $100 or whatever.
Yeah, we could
There could be an
adjust it.
unused line item, who knows, and I know it's tight, but I'm
Yeah,
just thinking generally.
And that's fine with me. I mean,
You
if we get to
have-
November and I have, $1,000 left somewhere.
You have a, full-time and a part-time, or just the full-time?
Just one full-time. I will have some summer help starting soon. But
That's the
in
work study
that's in the-
program.
Yeah, that's in the, Work Indiana program.
Well, if there's no need to take action
Yeah.
tonight, I'm going to suggest we don't and move on.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, that's good. So we'll just revisit as we get closer.
Thanks, Jen.
All right.
Keep a
If you
very
don't have
close
anything
eye
else
on
for me, I'm gonna head out.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you.
Should we take a break? Just,
I'm good, if everybody else is good, I'd like to just
We skipped over the compensation, action. Holly, we were under old business, we skipped the compensation part.
Well, that's how we got into the
Yes,
holiday pay.
yes, diverted, but should we go back to that to finish that? 'Cause we have our
I don't know, I mean, we've talked pretty much about what I did a kind of synopsis of what we talked about at the committee. Do we have another, date down for the next week?
I don't think we've set another date.
So that needs to be done.
We should, but we do have our update and action to take on the minimum targets. And we've not discussed that yet.
We skipping this. Extra appropriation.
No, we're not. We had talked, that was coupled in with the, request to the, where did it go? The commissioners, but then that's pretty much all been discussed. So I feel like we need to move on to.
Yeah, but on the compensation plan though, the council voted at the last meeting to proceed with going with low point targets and to refer it to our committee for review. The committee did review that and the consensus was to proceed. So tonight, we do need to bring that up. We need to take action one way or the other because there need to be some appropriations and some timelines to consider.
Well, that, breakdown was that in everyone's packet?
Yes, that's correct.
You guys wanna take a few minutes to look at that and then decide?
So it's gonna be page 6 of the report, which would be the 5th step. And we kind of did a summary on what the committee had done and what steps would need to be taken. We also have a snapshot of the financial impact by fund for the balance of '22. I think initially we projected about $140,000 cost. It's actually about 80 across all funds. The general fund, for instance, was only 22,200. Looks like the sheriff's lit was only 7,600. Highway was the biggest one and it was the most concerning because they have a fairly tight budget.
Well, that's, yeah.
So that's a concern I know that Jim had brought up. But he also has had a number of positions that have been unfilled. So there is some capacity to offset some of that, in the current budget. Page 6.
I think Craig needs to discuss on whether that would be, because I think what was discussed before was that you did not have that in your budget to be able to do that.
We're speaking about part-time, correct?
It would include part-time, but just anybody, like some of your truck drivers they're not at
Bringing it
the
up to
minimum.
the low end, the ones
Yeah.
that were not.
Guys, we're in deep trouble out there because of fuel, commodity, prices raising. I don't see how, you can make that decision for the highway department tonight. It's just not gonna work. Now, I would agree that, my 2 office staff, they need that bump like the courthouse employees, but unfortunately, we just can't afford to do this for the rest of the employees right now. We have to see what's gonna go on.
And I think that's why, I mean, the commissioners had, when we had talked about, when I brought that, our proposed plan to them for the additional 2 million ARPA funds, they wanted to stick with the 20-some employees in the courthouse plus your 2 administrative assistants and bring them up to the midpoint range, because this is going to be a little bit problematic because of the tight budget and because of all of the rising fuel costs. So,
So if we, I'm trying to figure out why we're kind of focusing on 20 individuals when you can work on everybody system-wide
you
and
can't
try to
work on
get.
everybody if the highway department does not have the funds.
Because we talked about the ARPA funds being used as lost revenue, which can then be used to offset the pay in that fund. So that would be the same method.
But we were also discussing using the ARPA funds to be able to cover that negative.
Yeah, and there'd still be enough. I mean, we're only talking 26,000 here for the balance of the year. So the ARPA funds, that would be a drop in the bucket, to those totals.
Are you talking the highway department was 26,000?
Yeah.
So the proposal was 20 courthouse?
And I've not seen that proposal, but,
Either.
Do you want to,
and that's not free. There's a cost to doing that too, which is more than this. So I'm not sure what the plan is with that.
And it was 2.
do what now?
It was 20.
That was, it was 20 courthouse employees and, am I,
Roughly 20 include the highway office staff because they're part of your payrolls for your summary, which puts them in that same category.
When was it?
Everybody else, since I've been here, the sheriff department's got a raise, the highway department's got a raise, the EMA's got a raise. The only people that haven't are your hourly employees, your courthouse.
Was this in the commissioners meeting?
Yeah. Part of the ARPA proposal.
Yeah, and I think we need to get away from the pick and choose. We're at the point where we are in a good position to start making progress for the entire system, which includes bringing people up to the minimum. It includes EMS. I think we're taking 2 steps backwards if we're gonna start back what we tried, several months ago. I think we need to steer clear of that. The committee already decided that the midpoint is the goal and that we would do that in steps. The council voted at the last meeting to take the first step, which is to bring everybody up to the minimum. That's what's in front of you tonight. Now we have additional time to work on more for everybody else. We also have budget hearings for next year, which I would expect we would also take further action on. But I think we should kind of stick with the work that we've done up to this point and be pretty consistent with this moving forward.
Well, I would say that during the genesis of this was kind of with the courts folks, and I thought we voted to move ahead collectively with everybody.
the problem with moving collectively, like I said, is the highway department and the funds there. I mean, we could use they've got a tight budget. I just don't want to, burden them with,
How you doing on your fuel?
Well, with projection right now, if we stay with the rate of that, we'd be over $200,000 over budget right now in parking trucks. I had 4 trucks parked today and we're, cutting brush and patching holes. You guys can't do this to the highway department tonight. I'm sorry, Anton, but I know what you're trying to do. But when we discussed in the last meeting, I thought we only discussed, we're going to talk about 2 people in my office.
Yeah, that part I
I
don't
understand
remember.
where you're going, and I know it needs to be done. But right now isn't the time to do it, not for the highway.
Would you object
Don't get me
to,
wrong, but you're asking me to stay within the budget? Pretty impossible to do this time of year with commodities going up.
fuel.
I've gotten notices, guys, the last 2 weeks in a row. Stones went up 75 cents a ton. each week because it's costing them more to produce.
Greg, I wanna.
Volatile situation right now to just be deciding, hey, let's take some more dough out and spend it.
No, I wanna be clear. I'm just asking questions here.
Oh,
As
no,
far as you saying
I'm not upset.
you guys can't do it, there's nothing that anybody's trying to do. I'm just asking questions.
So if, and I hate to say the word exclude, but if the highway department wishes to take itself out of the equation, at least temporarily, I guess that would be your decision if that's okay. I really hope not, but.
I have a commissioner sitting here, I know you hope not, but
Yeah.
how do you expect us to stay in a budget in mid-year when things are so tough? And then we just wanna do this. I understand my people need it, don't get me wrong. But it's gonna be real tough to make it work.
No, I agree.
Sheriff Department said the same thing, he couldn't afford to do it either.
So can we not come up with a plan, though? If there's another fund, we can move something around? Is there a position that, if you've got empty positions, that
Maybe
you're,
Phil's problem.
But I do have empty positions right now, and some of the thing about it is, if there would be a soul come around that would work, I'm sure the taxpayers of Owen County want me to put people out filling potholes. They want me to put people out cutting brush. They want those roads graded, so,
There's gotta be a case.
so if the concern is hiring people and trying to make sure we get people to fill those positions, it's about the rate of pay.
it is.
So at some point, there has to be a decision. Do you trade? Do you have, and I'm just using simple math, but do you have 10 positions that pay X, or do you have 8 positions that pay X plus, and you're able to fill them and get people?
Excuse me, Anton, I think we have a, go ahead, Amy.
There's no money. I mean, if
I
we
think
stick with the budget, there's no money to do it.
I think we need to table this right now, because, I mean, with a lot of
I agree.
unknowns, so.
And I don't wanna do that to the courthouse employees just because I don't believe the highway department should do it. I mean, I think you listen to the sheriff when he told you he couldn't do it,
Right.
but I don't think we're listening to the highway department when he says he can't do it.
I am listening.
I think we can, we
Greg.
understand it, for sure. We're just having an open discussion. But
I think this needs a lot more discussion, and I think we need to table this for tonight.
Sure.
Okay, did we do the building and mapping, request review already, cover that? Alright. Additional appropriation for the coroner, that's in the packet.
Busy day. I just read this in the cabinet, so I can come back to the office again. So we're talking about the encumbrance, is that where we at, or are we on?
The additional appropriation
Yeah.
request for your 25,000 for autopsies?
Yes, we are out of money for autopsies. I'm more than halfway over my last year's numbers on cases.
On autopsies.
So your line item right now, what's the current balance that's available, or is it in the red?
Like $1,361.
So you have 1,361 left in the line item to last you the rest of the year, which is not gonna happen. Okay. And part of this is because the previous year, there were some bills that came in to cover autopsies that already occurred, and so you kind of were in the hole.
And we wasn't allowed to do any encumbrance.
Okay, Okay.
So now I'm just not out. So. And I didn't completely fill out the request form because I don't know where you guys are gonna pull the money, so. Couldn't really fill it out all the way. I'm projecting 25,000, I'm hoping it'll be less than that. That way, any money that's not used can go back into the general fund. Or whatever fund you pull from that, we can put it back in there, you know what I'm saying, I don't know what you guys got to work with. I know it's not a whole lot in anywhere, so. I don't wanna ask for too little and have to come back again at the end of the year.
And autopsies have been running what?
They are running, it went up again. So, just for the medical examiner is $1,100 per case, and that's just a normal case. Now, if it's a high profile case, like a homicide case, like the one that's staff, it's gonna be way more. That's the more that's done. So when we add in x-rays and other tests and stuff, then their charge goes up.
So you said 1,100?
1,100 for them, and then we have to pay for the use of the room. And then we also have to pay for toxicology.
What kind of dollars total would you be talking about?
So, let's see, toxicology runs about 217 typically, unless we have to add additional testing. 200, no, it's went up, it's $350 for the room. So
1,700.
Yeah.
I'm just asking because I wanna get an idea that $25,000 only gets you
Yeah.
about 15
Yeah.
autopsies.
Yeah.
Okay. So it goes pretty quick.
How many autopsies did you have last year?
I don't have that with me, we'd have to look at.
I mean, you can get that to us later, I just was
Yeah,
wondering, are
I-
you running like more than you were at this time last year?
I mean, last year, we really tried to keep it down, so, we weren't trying not to do as many. Same thing this year, I mean, I'm trying to only do the ones that really need to be done. And then we're also, instead of autopsy, doing a full autopsy, we're doing labs and stuff like that instead of just doing toxicology if we can get away with that potential overdose case or something. And there's no other circumstances involved that would make the case completely different, you know, trial-wise, then we just do toxicology. So it's just kind of hard to determine. You just never know what you're gonna get. From one day, from one case to the next case, you know.
So where would that come from?
So, Riverboat?
Could be riverboat or it could be general.
What is our riverboat balance?
It's got 300 something in it.
Yeah. 257,499.
So,
257, what?
257,499.
so Angie or anybody on the council, do you have a amount that seems fair to carry us, you know, at least most of the way here?
Well, it's hard to predict, that's the worst.
like I said, we're over halfway what we done. We did 64 cases last year, we're at 34 now. So, this is.
You've already done 34 this year?
Not 34 occupancies, 34
No,
cases.
yeah, 34 cases.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And not all the cases require the 1100.
no, not all cases require.
Do you have a general idea on what that number is?
No, I can go back to the office and grab it.
Well, we know it's not all of them, and we know it's not zero.
Right, exactly. I would say about, just guessing, I would say about one out of every 5 is a full autopsy.
So we probably had 7 so far.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a bit of a shot in the dark, so we're gonna have to do something.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I don't have a problem with you guys going on to the next person. I can run back down and get that information so we all know what we're really looking at. I can get what we did last year and what we've done so far this year.
When you're good, we can go on to the sheriff's appropriation. Would you care to do that?
No, I don't care to do
That would be great.
I'll be right.
Alright. Okay, on to the appropriation for the sheriff.
Mine's real short and sweet. We sold some vehicles, and I'd like to take the money, make appropriation, put it into a vehicle repair.
What's the amount?
There's 2 of them.
18,574 is one and 10,600 is
Is that what you sold vehicles for, Sam?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we sold some vehicles, but we're gonna need that money in vehicle repair. As you know, everything costs a lot more than it is.
Okay.
So the grand total was gonna be the, basically the 30, or, yeah, 29.5.
$30,000.
Got it, and that was proceeds from the vehicle sale
Yes.
that were deposited into your fund 1170.
Cash.
You're wanting to reappropriate that out for vehicle repair.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we proceed with the appropriations as advertised, or to advertise. The grand total is 29,174. The calculator matches. All right, and that's out of Public Safety Fund 1170, and it would be for line item 38300.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay. Alright. On to Health Department grant and funds update.
I just need to, let you guys know that we received $1,000 for completing a survey early. I'm gonna have that, if you approve it, put in the 4911 fund. That's our food fund, so.
You got that for completing the survey?
Yeah,
Oh.
You got more?
well, there's part 2 of this. And then also we received $210,000.32 for vaccine reimbursements.
Great.
So we're just, if it's okay with you, I'd like to come back to you at your next meeting and see how we're gonna appropriate that.
Okay.
So for now, I'm gonna make a motion to approve and accepting the grant for $1,000.
In the food fund.
That'll go into the food fund 4911, right?
I'll second.
Motion made by Anton, seconded by Andy. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
Alright. Probation Department grant.
Donna's not here because they have moved this grant to a full calendar year. So normally it was in October, I believe is when it started. Long story short, she will have the full awarded amount to present at your budget hearings in August. So no actions needed.
Resolution highway.
Okay, council, back in 2019, there were two transfers. Indiana Code 36184 allows the county council to consider a transfer, it's a temporary loan. So in 2019, there were two resolutions that were passed. One was for the EMS building. It was for a large amount, but that never came to fruition. So even though there was a resolution that was passed, there was no actual movement of the loan. I would anticipate what occurred was an expectation that the loan was not going to come in when a payment was due, but the loan actually did come in just a few days after you passed that. So that one, even though you did have a resolution, the State Board of Accounts noticed that there was no actual money from Lit Edit ever moved. So that one in essence just died on itself. However, in 2019, the county council passed a resolution 0016, and it approved a temporary transfer of about $198,225.50 out of Lit Edit. That was a Fund 7332. That then went to the Highway Department. That came in, it was approved, and you can follow, and it will be in the resolution, but you can follow that the $198,225 was in fact transferred out of Lit Edit 7332. It went into 1176. Then there was a specific line item in 1176 that allowed the highway to purchase two vehicles. Those vehicles were in fact purchased. So this is no question about money, approval, things purchased. The State Board of Accounts then did an audit, and it came out that the temporary loan had never been repaid. Now, there have been questions, I believe, that said it wasn't paid. Perhaps in a council meeting, there was a consensus or a statement that it had been, and then it was left. The reality was the $198,000 loan actually never was repaid. Trucks were purchased, money was moved, and everything that ever thought happened, but it did not occur. So the State Board of Accounts obviously took exception, just noting that this loan occurred, and as of today, it's never been paid back. This is a resolution, in essence, that you would be rescinding the original 2019. But the bottom line, getting to it, if you adopt and pass this resolution, highway doesn't pay the loan back. That's the essence of this, that the $198,000, it's already been paid, it's already been taken out of Lit Edit. There would just need to be the accounting with the auditor that just shows that this was, you're agreeing that this should have just been paid out of Lit Edit, and the highway will be relieved of paying the loan, and this terminates that process. So it does have a lot of whereases, but it's only a page, so I'll go through this as quickly. This is resolution number 2022-009 of the Owen County Council. This will be a resolution rescinding resolution 2019-0016 that was titled a resolution to allow the transfer from Lit Edit Fund to the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund. Whereas on September 9, 2019, pursuant to Indiana Code 36-1-84, the Owen County Highway Department requested the Owen County Council to approve a temporary loan for the purchase of two Ford F-750 dump trucks. Whereas on September 9th of 2019, the Owen County Council adopted Resolution 2019-0016, titled a resolution to allow the transfer of funds from Lit Edit to the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund. Whereas the Owen County Council approved the $198,225.50 temporary loan to the Highway Department. The amount of $198,225.50 was approved to be transferred out of Fund 7332, Lit Edit, to Fund 1176 MVH. Whereas on October 16, 2019, $198,225.50 was transferred out of Fund 7332, line item 7332, 5,000, 00000, unappropriated. On October 16th of 2019, this transfer was adjusted and vacated. Whereas on October 29th of 2019, $198,225.50 was transferred out of Fund 7332, line item 7332, 5,000,000,000 unappropriated. Whereas an examination of Fund 1176 MVH for the year 29, specifically line item number 1176.30102.000.000 temporary loan trucks, reveals the following entries were recorded. 1, a payment of $169,739.50 for two 2019 Ford F-750 dump trucks. And 2, payment of $14,000, $243 to Ram Equipment Company. And 3, an appropriation of $184,000. Whereas the Indiana State Board of Accounts Supplemental Compliance Report of Owen County, Indiana for the time period of January 1, 2020 to December 31st, 2020, the State Board of Accounts reported the following. Pursuant to Resolution 2019-0016, a temporary loan extended to the Owen County Highway Department was to be repaid by January 31st, 2020. As of December 31st, 2021, the temporary loan had not been repaid by the Owen County Highway Department. And whereas the Indiana State Board of Accounts has taken exception to the non-repayment of temporary of the Owen County Highway Department pursuant to the requirements of Indiana Code 36-1-84N. Whereas of May 9th of 2022, the temporary loan of $198,225.50 authorized by Resolution 2019-016 from Fund 7332, Lit Edit, to Fund 1176, MVH has not been repaid by the Owen County Highway Department. Now therefore be it resolved by the Owen County Council the following: Section 1, rescind. The Owen County Council hereby rescinds Resolution 2019-0016, titled a resolution to allow the transfer from Lit Edit Fund to Motor Vehicle Fund in its entirety. The Owen County Highway Department is not required to repay back the temporary loan $198,225.50. B, the Owen County Council shall make the proper appropriation for the payment of two 2019 Ford F-750 dump trucks from the Lit Edit Fund. And C, a copy of this resolution, if so adopted, will be forwarded to the State Board of Accounts and the Department of Local Government Finance. If so, it be it passed and adopted by the Owen County Council, held on a regular meeting on the 9th day of May of 2022. The effective date of this resolution will be May 9th of 2022. To be public, that must be publicized. The Owen County Council, Polly Chesser, Burl Key, Andy Wood, Amy Casebar, Anton Neff, Chuck Cass, and Nick Robertson. The attest will be by Sheila Reeves, Auditor.
I'm gonna go and make a motion that we adopt the resolution as read.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Second by Earl. Motion made by Anton. All those in favor? Motion carried. All right, property tax abatements, Hoosier Energy and Mater Mill.
I apologize to the council, I didn't realize that Hoosier Energy was on the agenda for tonight, but I can go ahead and read through the tax abatement review committee paper, which I wish I would have had in front of you. I'll go ahead and read it to the council so permits. Okay, it says, now therefore be it resolved by the Spencer Owen Economic Development and Abatement Review Committee as follows. 1, the review committee finds that Hoosier Energy has performed the necessary improvements upon the real estate pursuant to the terms of the tax abatement. 2, the review committee finds that Hoosier Energy has met and exceeded all requirements which are in accordance with the original statement of benefits. 3, the review committee now finds no non-compliance issues. The review committee has reviewed the annual CF1 real property forms at the annual reporting period. 5, the Spencer Owen Economic Development and Abatement Review Committee is directed to provide a copy of this resolution to the property owner, the Owen County Auditor, and Department of Local Government Finance, which has been done. So it is duly resolved and adopted on this 14th day of April, which was when the Compliance Review Committee met, 2022, by the Spencer Owen Economic Development and Abatement Review Committee, Owen County, Indiana, having been passed by a vote of 4 in favor and 0 opposed. So it is our recommendation to the county council that the tax abatement for Hoosier Energy be passed for this final year in their tax abatement.
Monty? So, what is the action of the council?
Well, I'll make a motion, we proceed in granting the continuance of the abatement for Hoosier Energy.
Motion made by Anton, seconded by Andy. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried.
And then for Mater Mill, tonight we have Scott Mater here who's going to go ahead and he has some information that he'd like to present to the council. And then after he's done, I can read for you the resolution, which is also, there's a copy of it in front of you.
And real quick, before you start, Scott, so the letter you read for Hoosier Energy, are you gonna make sure that Sheila sends that out to us so we have a copy for our record?
Yes, I thought I already had sent that Hoosier Energy resolution to you. If I hadn't, I'm going to make sure to email that and I'll get that done tonight.
Got it, thank you.
Go on.
So, to recap a little bit, when we started in 2019, we invested $800,000 of our own money, guaranteed, got loans for $2.1 million to start a salt mill. Shortly after we began, COVID hit, which threw the pallet market into a nightmare. So in 2020, to stay afloat, we put in another $250,000 of our own money. 2021, since COVID wasn't done, we put in another $95,000 of our own money to keep the business going. This year, so far, has been better. We've only had to put in $25,000 into the business to keep it going. Part of it is wage increase, as you've heard multiple times, fuel, log costs, things are changing quite quickly. It's extremely hard to actually make a budget or projection of what it's gonna actually cost to operate. So that's the financial, what we've done. We met our obligation, over our obligation of the initial investment for the property. So to give you a little perspective of the impact, we've purchased over $2 million worth of logs, which is a lot of local logs. And that actually has been going up in terms of how much we secure locally due to fuel costs. We've paid $1.1 million in wages and employment tax. On wages, we are 18% higher than what we projected our wages to be at this time. So even though our numbers are not where we want them in terms of number of people employed, their actual wages are 18% higher than what we projected. The property taxes that we've paid, even with the abatement, they continue to go up because of the decreasing scale in terms of the amount. So in terms of where we continue to go, we still believe that the jobs we're creating, the impact to the community is still very positive. Because without putting in our funds, and without the tax abatement, then there'd be a lot of revenue from taxes, property taxes, employment taxes, that would not be occurring. So the projection of where we go, we're still actively advertising, pursuing to get our numbers up, because I do need the employees, multiple sources. We have started working with, give an example, InVets to secure some more skilled employees. We still continue to try to Indeed and Facebook. Our wages are, depending on which source you go with, our wages is still over twice what the average wage is in Owen County. So for a labor job, we've created quite a high-paying job. That's a really quick picture. It was late. So in terms of asking for the approval, I gave you what we personally put in to keep it going, and asking for a little help on the taxes to keep going in the right direction. Basically, I summed it up quite quickly. So.
Are any other questions? I'll move that we approve tax abatement.
To the Marcy one.
Would you like me to read the tax abatement compliance recommendation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright. So, now therefore be it resolved by the Spencer Owen Economic Development and Abatement Review Committee as follows. 1, the Abatement Review Committee has reviewed the annual CF1 personal property and CF1 real property forms at the annual reporting period. 2, the Abatement Review Committee finds that Mater Mill has performed the necessary improvements upon the real estate and installed the manufacturing equipment pursuant to and exceeding the terms of the tax abatement. And just so the county council knows, Economic Development has gone ahead and made sure that we do site visits and that we communicate with all the businesses that have tax abatements throughout the year, so we're not just talking with them once before this committee meets. 3, the Abatement Review Committee finds that Mater Mill meets the wage requirements pursuant to and exceeding the terms of the tax abatement. 4, even though the applicant has met and exceeded their capital investment and wages for tax abatement requirements, there is a substantial non-compliance on the key component of employment. We have a qualified recommendation that the abatement continue for the current year, but would be subject to future deliberation on reduction and possible termination if no substantial progress on the employment component is made. 5, the Spencer Owen Economic Development and Abatement Review Committee is directed to provide a copy of this resolution to the property owner, the Owen County Auditor, and the Department of Local Government Finance. And so it is duly resolved and adopted on this 14th day of April 2022 by the Spencer Owen Economic Development and Abatement Review Committee, Owen County, Indiana, having been passed by a vote of 4 in favor and 0 opposed.
Do we want to put in the motion that, on the recommendation of the economic development, in the original motion, it wasn't included all the.
So I will amend my motion to say that, any, I guess, moves by the Economic Development, Committee, would be heard by the council. If you have a better recommendation, let me know.
Did we have a second?
No. We didn't. I'll second.
Motion made by Andy, seconded by Amy. All those in favor? Motion carried.
I think it's, Scott, it's been a pretty tough challenge, I know, for you, and you've really been trying.
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna complain, but
Yeah. You've managed to keep it afloat though, which is amazing.
yeah, but the 65 hours a week for 3 years
Yeah.
is a bit rough.
Yeah.
But, you know, coming here tonight really helps that, for about, how long have you been here? 3.5 hours?
Yeah, I started at 5 this morning.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Councilman Matt, just a question for the auditor. And did you find they are in substantial compliance? There wasn't, I just wanted to make sure that that's in the record, that there wasn't a finding of substantial compliance.
I know this year's been tough. Finding good help, all that.
Oh, yeah.
We need businesses. Keep it up, I hope you get more. Do you have trouble selling your stuff?
Oh, no, I could run 24/7 and
Could you?
yeah, that's not the issue. The issue is labor and then supply chain issues. I mean, I don't even wanna start there. I mean,
So, Jim, what was your
No,
question?
but I'm not trying to, I'm just so there's real clarity, because there's a specific statute, and you did receive some information in one particular area. There was non-compliance as far as the number of personnel. You have the absolute authority to find substantial compliance, and finding that the fact of supply chain and the unavailability of labor is beyond the control of Mater Mill. Upon that finding, then that would show a substantial compliance.
So I'll make another motion that, that we find that due to supply chain issues and the availability of the workforce, that we still find that they are in, compliance other than those issues. And, they are substantially in compliance, is that?
Substantial compliance.
Yeah. That's my
And what
motion.
she just said, right?
Yeah.
So does that mean that the county council agrees to the recommendation of the tax abatement review committee that in next year's review, there needs to be substantial improvement in the employment area in order for the tax abatement to not alter?
Yes.
That's,
I would, that's
Yes.
what I was trying to get
Yeah.
across, that we needed to include that in our motion is my.
If that's what you want.
Redo that,
I'll put whatever you want in there, I think we're all.
I just wanted to, I mean, I thought that was very good, that it was, you know, upon, I mean, in the next year, if there's not a substantial, improvement.
Alright,
But you guys are looking at an unprecedented labor shortage right now. When he signed this abatement,
that was
back then, this was not heard of.
Yeah.
So to even go by that for next year, we still have no idea what's gonna happen. And we can offer people $30, $40, $50 an hour, they're still not showing up.
That's true.
so I made a motion, I can withdraw it if you guys want, and somebody can make a new one, I'll withdraw it.
So we need a motion now to,
I apologize, I'm not sure what's been withdrawn, but for statutory purposes, since you do have an opinion by the council and you have a very direct explanation of in the one area that there's not compliance, you as a council would, if you want to continue the abatement, to find that there has been substantial compliance with the statement of benefits, the exception being the number of employees hired due to activities or due to circumstances beyond the control of Mater Mill because of supply chain and labor shortages, which are not in their control. If you find that, then you absolutely each year can come back and do a review. What I believe the Chamber of Commerce is asking, they've kind of put Mater on notice, they would like to see this better, that may or might not happen, and that's within your discretion to review this every year.
Yes, exactly that.
Yeah. And it should be reviewed, it is reviewed every year. Yeah,
Right.
so it's just the fact of a substantial employment increase.
They missed, and I'm not putting any opinion to it, I'm just
Right.
saying, when they came in 2019, there was, we think we can hire X number of employees. They have not been able to do that. It would make sense why they have
Right.
not.
Sure.
But then next year, depending on what changed, maybe it gets worse, maybe it's better, but they still are kind of held accountable to that original statement when they come
Right.
back to you next year for the abatement.
What's the,
Well, I'm gonna make a motion that upon the information presented by Mater Mill, the recommendation of the Economic Development Corporation's review, that the council finds that Mater Mill is in substantial compliance despite the fact that there was a wage labor shortage or a labor shortage and supply issues for this last year.
motion made by Anton, is anyone second?
I will second that.
Andy seconds it. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay. You wanna go on to salary ordinance or go back to the coroner? She's here.
Coroner.
It's, has to be reviewed. It's still to be reviewed.
Right.
Every year,
Yeah.
every year it is, yes.
Okay, so. Last year's number of or autopsy cases was 22. So far this year, we're at 11. So,
So we're a little behind.
a little.
So
This-
last year at this time, there was 22 and,
No,
okay,
a total, we had 22 total last year.
okay,
And
okay,
11 so far this year.
okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're,
yeah.
projecting. If my numbers keep going, I'm gonna, it's gonna be a lot worse. Cause this time last year in case numbers, I only had 16 cases last year at this time. And we are at 34 cases,
Whoa, wow.
so. I don't know how to do the figures. I mean, I still don't know how to project it.
We still,
Yeah, 33 is,
That's,
and, but we know her line items in the red, or soon to be.
Soon will be.
Yeah, it's just one more left that you have to pay for.
you're a lot more than when you did your budget.
No, we still took off the 5,000.
Okay, cause
You
I
guys
was
had
thinking we were
5,000.
gonna come out for a lot more.
so we really need,
More than-
doing the same thing, you need at least 16,500.
Yeah, because she had 11,
Right.
and, you can get 17 out of
Half of-
25,000.
So that's really close, I mean, that's.
So you're, what do you say, let's go 20? I'll make a motion that we,
And then you'll just have to come
well, we're
back.
gonna take that out.
Cause are we could go to
Are we
56,
doing
right?
riverboat? Can we take it out of the riverboat, Sheila? I'll make a motion that we, take, 20,000 out of the riverboat for the autopsy fund.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Amy. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried.
Hopefully, I can keep the number down and I won't see you again.
More than likely you will.
Okay, salary ordinance confirmation
Thank you,
summary.
guys.
Thanks.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we have the president sign off on the current batch of summaries.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Andy. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, elected official and department comments. Anybody have anything? Public comments?
I have one, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
I came in here in December, asking about the holiday pay. There was two parts to that. One, I was supposed to pay back part of it, I was one of the people on the list. The issue that I brought up secondary to that was, apparently in January of 2021, a new ordinance went into effect, and none of the county employees at the sheriff's department received a copy of that ordinance, which is against county policy, because the county policy says that when the council or the commissioners make some kind of change to the policy, that the employees will receive official notice. That was not done. Here we are 17 months later, I received it today, and I signed off on the back of the page 6 of the county ordinance policy when I received it today. 17 months later after this was changed. I've been working for this county for over 10 years. It started out that I got paid for holidays as a floating holiday that I got to use, and then that wasn't feasible because it was a scheduling nightmare for different departments, so they changed it to where we get paid out quarterly. Now, my salary has been cut because somebody decided it was a good idea, not just mine, I'm just talking because I'm the only one here. My salary was cut, and now I only get paid for 8 hours of holiday pay. But you still expect me to come and show up to work and work 10 hours. I think it is wrong, and I don't understand how you can, the council or commissioners, I know part of it's a commissioner issue, can make a policy change, not notify your employees, and not pay them appropriately after they've notified you that they weren't, that they didn't receive a copy of the handbook showing the change. By law, they have to, if the policy is changed, it has to be done an official notice to the employees, and they have to sign off on it, and be sent back to the auditor or whoever puts it in the personnel file, which is what happened today. Whenever I received an email from the chief deputy, I received a copy of the policy, and I signed that document. 17 months after this ordinance has went into effect, I received a copy today.
So what's the distribution method that's used to?
The department heads?
Who does
They
it
have
go for
always
you?
been in the past given to the department heads and the department heads to the employees. Sam even had said in one of the meetings that that was on him, that it hadn't happened and that he would get him a copy. I assumed you already had a copy, you hadn't heard anything, and that's been 2 to 3 months ago.
And 5 months ago. So now we're up to May, and you guys have made a decision tonight that only partially fixed it. I don't have to pay the money back, and the other employees are gonna get the bump, but where's the rest of the money that I'm getting shorted up until Councilman Hess made the motion that day, up until Martin Luther King Day, is when it was being acknowledged, because that was the next holiday that was gonna be in the next pay cycle before your next meeting. And here we are 5 months later before we make a decision on it. But, I mean, I'm upset about it, because I know Chris's employees are, getting only partial pay as well. And I don't think it's right. I think that policy needs to be readdressed. I don't think it ever should have been changed unless it was meeting everybody's work requirements. I mean, if I'm required to work 10 hours, I don't understand how you can only give me a benefit that if I got that day off, we sit here and say county employees are gonna get treated the same. I don't get paid when the courthouse gets closed for COVID or whatever, but the courthouse employees did. The courthouse employees get their holiday, whether they work 7 hours, 8 hours, whatever. Why don't the rest of us get the pay that we are supposed to get for every other benefit? I don't understand it. And I still don't have an answer to my question from 5 months ago.
I don't know why it was changed to begin with. I mean, that happened right when I came on, so I'm not exactly sure what the thought process was with that, so I don't feel qualified to, discuss that as much as somebody that's been here a little bit
So
longer.
Michael, when you have, let's say you wanna take, you get sick time, right, or,
Say personal vacation.
so you still get all that, like vacation. In a week's time, you would normally work 40 hours, so you would take 40 hours for your vacation time, and you're off for the week. Now, you're already off one of the 4 or 5 day work days, but that's just the number of hours in that paycheck.
I work 10 hours.
Right. Yeah, I guess I'm not sure why it would be more than 8, because if the holiday is 8 hours, which is really 7.5 for courthouse folks, not 8, but 8 is a general kind of daily work day regularly for maybe non-public safety, but 8 times whatever the number of days off in that year, which could be 12 or 14, that's the base value of the time off that's liquidated through holiday pay. And that's what's being given according to the current policy. I think before that, though, it was by the day. And
By the amount of hours you worked.
the trouble is if you work, I'm gonna use an extreme example, a 24-hour shift, they work 2 of those typically in a week. That doesn't entitle them to 2 times, that'd be 12, that'd be 6 weeks off of
But the
holiday pay.
benefit day was originally a floating holiday. That was taken away because it was a scheduling nightmare, because I can't take off Christmas Eve, Christmas, and New Year's Eve,
Right.
and the entire department take those days off, so, before the end of the year. So it is a scheduling nightmare, so they changed it to where you got paid out for your holidays, your
Just
floating
liquidated
holiday,
it. Mhm.
quarterly. So I was getting paid out for 10 days. I can't take a holiday off, a floating holiday off, and burn one of my normal hours of work, because it doesn't meet enough to substantiate the 10-hour workday for me or anyone else. Dispatch is 12, the EMS is, 16, 24, however you wanna look at it. It's not right, it needs to be reevaluated. I don't know why it's taken 5 months to get an answer, and I don't know why it ever got changed in the first place, and I don't know why I wasn't notified as an employee, why the county council or the county commissioners, whoever, can violate their own policy. I guarantee if I violated a county policy, I'd be terminated.
When you say violate our own policy,
The
what-
policy says that in order for this, when something's changed, that the county will notify its employees of the change. That was never done.
well, that was the department, that was
That's not,
department head.
if,
I can't point fingers, it doesn't matter who.
no, wait, you're saying that we violated our own policy, okay? It's not, the distribution channel doesn't go, if you think that she needs to write out to each individual, that's not the way it works. We're not full-time employees that send out a letter to each individual. So I think, Michael, that's taking it a bit extreme, all right? The violating of a policy, she said that she sent it out to department heads. Your department head said, according to her, that he was going to fix it and that he dropped the ball. I think that was said earlier, okay?
He took the responsibility. He also told me that he never received a copy of it.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not trying to point fingers. I know that I was not given a copy of the policy, and it is the duty of the council or commissioners to do that. Probably more so the commissioners, because it's their policy that was changed. So they made a change to the policy and failed to have whoever notify their employees. And there's probably no check and balance in place to verify that the employees have received this authorization. Like the new policy is a drug policy that came out, which is why we received a copy of the new policy and was requested to sign that. Until today, all these changes have been made since 2016. I have not received a copy of any new ordinance from 2016 until today. of all the county employee handbook.
So who, Sheila, who, I
So
mean,
just make a motion that from here on out, any new policies, personnel policy changes, that they are sent to all individual employees, not just the department heads.
okay, that sounds good. Let's make that motion.
I'll go ahead and make the motion that any notice, official notice of policy changes be distributed to every active employee in the system.
Second,
Second.
seconded by Amy. Motion made by Anton. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, any other public comments?
Yeah, I think so. An interesting meeting, I really didn't want to be here. If you go back to the pro report, Tim Berry wanted to suggest a county manager. The issues that you can deal with once every 2 weeks are limited, and you're dealing with minutia. The commissioners are even worse. The value of a county manager is that then you have someone 5 days a week who can pick up the phone, call enough of you to get guidance, and stuff can get dealt with in real time. And then your issues are broader because you have something, for example, we probably need a road commission. The very fact of dealing with ditches at the commission level is silly. The reason you have a planning commission is so that you have some authority to take a look at things, yada, yada, yada. I understand that at one time, there was a road person in the trustees in the townships. And that went away. But then there was something there to deal with local town issues. And it was, I just had a talk with Bill Purcell about this because his father was on one of these townships as the road person. So there are a variety of things that you folks are dealing with at a, looking through a magnifying glass. And that makes it impossible for you to take a look at larger issues that aren't even on your they're not on your plate. And they're probably a hell of a lot more critical. Not that Mike's isn't critical, it's just, this could have been dealt with by a county manager. And what we're paying for an attorney is truly embarrassing compared to counties around us. And I've been in a community where we had a city manager and we had a city council. And in fact, I asked him one time, well, how are we doing? Vic, it's like shopping carts in front of a grocery store. We're not really getting anything done, but we're getting the stuff that belongs in this shopping cart, we're getting this stuff into this shopping cart, we're moving them all into a corner, and we can deal with them eventually. So, just a thought, that original Crow report was golden. And this group didn't want anything to do with it, and the commissioners didn't want to do anything. It's time to look back at that, I think.
Since our attorney is gone. Sheila, do you have any comments? Council have any comments?
I have something. So I just wondered if the discussion was finished about the foreigners that did get a little bit bonus to get your hours last time. Andrew and I have been talking about it. Did you guys discuss it? I mean, we sent the hours, so we made the requirements, and we found that.
Well, it cannot come out of our money. I mean, we've already discussed that, but, we just have not come up with where it could come from. So
So
we're
it's not
still, we're
I
still.
mean, 'cause we earned it like the rest of them. We, like Michael said, we didn't get anything for closing for 2 weeks because we couldn't close for 2 weeks. So, I mean, so it's not tabled, it's still there? All right, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
In honor of Chuck being absent, make the motion.
Yeah, we're adjourned.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey Sheila,
Break.
for every $500,000 that's saved down towards a jail project, saves $359,000.
Bye, Frank.
Now, is that not a crazy figure?
So, more concern me is
That's all.